that organic as a heuristic is generally not vegan, that statement is false. What would you like to, what proposition exactly would you like to discuss?
My general claim is that uh, organic can possibly be vegan. Is that contentious?
Well, no, I'm sure everybody would agree here that organic possibly could be vegan. Like veganic organic is obviously vegan.
Well, then Avi's idea is idiotic
What? How does that follow?
because he says organic is carnist, and that's incorrect if that's the case.
Well, well, sorry, just to be clear, I don't think his position is all organic is Carnist, and I
Well, then
really
I
don't think that his sorry, and I really don't think his position is that veganic organic is Carnist, right? Like he has said in his debate with Michelle Lowe that if veganic farming was just as available and just as cheap, then that should be the preferable option to vegans, right? Like the claim that he was making when he says organic is carnist, he clarifies when he makes that statement and he says, as a general heuristic.
Okay, well, I still maybe I don't quite understand what he's saying there. I mean, he saying a general heuristic is not really quite covering. I mean, it's in what context? Because I think that sort of begs the question. Saying general heuristic seems to be a sophist technique of not really nailing down when is it carnist and when is it vegan, and that's what I'm debating here, whether it is carnist or vegan, like as a baseline.
Well, yeah, sure. Yeah, we can go into the exact details of it. But sorry, did you say calling it heuristic is vague? What's the issue with saying that as a general heuristic, it's not, or it's sorry, what's the issue with saying that organic as is not vegan as a general heuristic? What's the issue with that?
The issue is that you have to actually state what is the problem you're trying to solve. And from my end, I would argue that the problem that is trying to be resolved with veganism generally is that from the consumer end, we are telling resellers what we want them to carry. So from that end, we are simply saying we want you to carry plants. We don't want you to be carrying animal products. Now, if we want to get down to the distributor or manufacturer, or in other words, the equivalent of the manufacturer in farming would be the grower end of things. If we're trying to get into that's a completely different approach than what veganism is generally putting forward. That's really my position.
Okay, so if we're going to be discussing if organic
Like,
is,
let me clarify if you don't
yeah,
mind.
sure, no problem.
So if we're talking about, and I'm a vegan, maybe that's clear. I don't I'm not sure if it's labeled within this room, but um if we're trying to get at what farmers do exactly, like for instance, in um combine harvesting. So with combine harvesting, like vegans probably would like to create a different technique of harvesting crops that would uh, create the least amount of deaths. So if we want to get into that, that's like talking about vegan farmers, but we're not generally, when we're talking about veganism, we're not after just like whether the farmers are vegan or not. We're generally talking from the consumer end, like what you buy in the grocery store. If you're choosing the cow's milk or the almond milk, so it comes down to the consumer end of things, generally speaking. If we want to get into the more narrow aspect of like how you're going to farm, that's a whole different topic. And in that sense, what Avi's getting at would apply. But then he should be debating farmers, not debating consumer vegans that have no say in what the farmers are doing.
Um, Okay, sorry, I just want to make sure that we're keeping this grounded to what the proposition is. So the proposition
Sure.
that we're discussing is if organic is or is not carnist. So would you say that generally organic is carnist or is not carnist?
Well, can we I think we have to nail down the terms here. So when we say carnist, we're saying non-vegan, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we could say that carnist is equivalent with non-vegan.
Okay.
So you could tell me like yes or no, and what do you mean
So
by non-vegan?
sure. So if we're talking about vegan or not, are we specifically are we referring to how people would farm, or are we referring to the consumer end of things? Because I think that's really the point of contention.
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
Okay. So like as a general heuristic, if we're talking about what is vegan and what is not vegan, are we talking about um, what consumers should do in their decisions of what they buy from a reseller, a grocery store, in other words, or even a farmer's market? Or are we talking about what farmers should do in terms of up the supply chain from the manufacturer or grower end of this situation?
Um, okay, so I'm not sure what definition of veganism we're using, but when you say that organic is generally not non-vegan, like that's a view that you hold right now, right? That organic is generally not non-vegan.
I wouldn't say generally. I mean, I'm willing to be convinced otherwise. In a general sense, what I'm talking about is as a baseline. In other words, um, as a polarity. Like, can we in total say that organic is non-vegan? I would say that if you are strictly arguing from the grower end, in other words, you're talking to growers and they're saying we're vegans and we're trying to do the most vegan thing here. And you
Well,
say,
sorry,
well,
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to get clarity, like right now, if there actually is a disagreement between both of us right now, because
I'm
like
not sure.
yeah, okay, yeah. So the proposition, if there is a disagreement right now, I'm trying to take the position that organic generally is non-vegan. Would you say that that is true or false?
No, I'm unconvinced of that.
Okay, so you're agnostic to that position.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to be convinced, but as far as I can tell, it does come down to the empirical data here. We could go down to some hypotheticals, and I would be glad to, tell you where I stand on various things. And in that sense, I can't say that we're necessarily in disagreement, but it just comes down to how you would apply the term or the claim that organic is generally not vegan.
Yeah, yeah. So how we define the terms is really important. So I think that we should start with that because if we just say something is vegan, if it is not meat, dairy, eggs, fish, leather, or wool, then it's vegan. Then like obviously organic in that case is vegan, but I don't think that that would be a very useful way to define that word in this specific context, and that's obviously not the way that Dr. Avi is using the word when he's having these discussions.
Sure,
So
I won't say that I completely understand how he's trying to use the I'm going by just really the statement organic as carnist. And that's what I'm going against. And I'm willing to say that my proposition is organic is vegan. The question really comes down to how do I mean that? Um, and um, I think this comes down to whether we're talking from the consumer end, from the distributor end, or from the reseller end, from the distributor end, or from the manufacturer or grower end. And I think if we're to take this, like if we're going to apply, so we like let me level with you here. So um, if you have a grower that has the choice, they're like, we can go full veganic, or we could go, conventional, or that's kind of a bad word, contemporary organic, where we're going to use animal outputs for our farming. and you're strictly talking to those people, I think that you could say that it would be a non-vegan choice to go with the animal outputs for your growing techniques. Um, you want to go with the veganic method, which is, I think that's reasonable. That's a reasonable conversation to have from the grower end. But if you're talking about um, the consumer end, which I think is general, it's the general heuristic of veganism. When people are out there talking on the streets and trying to get people to go vegan, we're speaking from the consumer end. And so, if we're strictly speaking from the consumer end, then what we're talking about is who how you go about your buying decisions. And I think that if we're going to, if Avi, again, I don't know specifically how he's applying it. It's difficult to really nail it down because I think in most of the conversations I've heard, I've listened to many of them. He does not really nail down at what level he's really talking about it. He seems to apply all levels, the grower end and the consumer end, all the same. I'm just saying that's what it seems like, and that seems to be very contentious, generally speaking. I think that the issue is that if he is going to suggest that it is not vegan to buy organic at the consumer level, then we have to follow that up the line. And we can essentially say that to buy organic from a non-vegan reseller, or I'm sorry, organic or not, if you're buying items from a non-vegan reseller, that's non-vegan. And if you're going to, let's say you have a vegan reseller, but then the reseller is buying from a non-vegan distributor, then that's not vegan. That, to follow the logic, that's where I see that going, and I'm just being uh, honest as to how it appears from the public side of this.
Right. So I think to start, I think it's very important to define what exactly we mean by veganism. And I think this is a good question to get an idea of if we're on the same page here. So if
Sure.
someone were to donate $100,000 to a dairy farm, would you consider that to be a vegan action or a non-vegan action?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Yeah. So the question is, if someone were to donate $100,000 to a dairy farm, would you consider that to be a vegan action or a non-vegan action?
That would be a non-vegan action.
Yeah, I would agree that if someone were to just give a lot of money just as a donation to animal agriculture, that would be a non-vegan action. Okay.
But
So
that would be skipping a lot of levels in terms of the supply chain. Can we agree on that? That's cutting right to the manufacturer or grower end of what's going on, as opposed to the distributor or reseller.
well, hold on. Sorry. This is just the start. Before we get into if organic is carnist, we're just getting an idea of what exactly is meant by vegan. Um, oh, Dr.
Oh,
Avi's
looks
here now.
like we got the man himself. Yeah, let's see about that.
Okay, so here's what we've established so far. We've established that if somebody donates $100,000 to a dairy farm, that would be considered a non-vegan action.
Sure.
Um, so here's so let's look at this question. Let's say that you can choose between
Wait, hold on a
either.
second. Hold on a second. Someone just called me a retard. Is that cool? Is that something to bring into the debate? Do we need personal attacks? Is that a way to approach this? I noticed that Ask Yourself just left. Maybe he doesn't, he thinks that's all good. I don't know. Is that a cool thing to bring into the debate? Do we need to have personal attacks? Can we just have a conversation without that?
All right, what's going on, people?
Okay, sorry. So sorry. Let me just
Nah,
repeat
hold
the
on,
question.
hold on, hold on. They want to say I'm crying, okay? I'm not crying. I'm saying that that's not reasonable. We can have a conversation here, right? We don't need to call each
Can you
other
spell out
retards.
to me what's going on? I don't really care about the meta. What's the issue?
Organic is vegan. Baseline point.
Okay.
Organic is
Okay. Is drinking a cup of milk a day vegan?
no.
Is consuming a fully organic diet vegan?
Sure. Yeah.
What's the symmetry breaker?
What's a symmetry breaker?
What's the difference?
Can
Yeah,
you
what's the
apply
difference?
that?
Yeah, sure. So what's the difference between the context of drinking a cup of milk a day and consuming an all organic diet a day? Um, what's difference by which one is non-vegan and one is vegan?
Deliberately consuming animal products.
Okay, so if someone, oh, so it's, and by deliberately, let's just get clarity. By deliberately, you mean intentionality?
Yeah, from the consumer end, consuming animal products.
Okay, so if it's an animal, so it's just if it's an animal product. So if you, and just to be clear, so consuming an animal product is intentional. I just want to get clarity if it's just about it being an animal product or if it has to be an intentional consumption of an animal product on your view.
Intentionally consuming an animal product, correct, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Like, in other words, if I order what I feel to be I order the vegan option from a reseller, let's say, Taco Bell, I order the vegan option and they put cheese in it, and I bite it, I didn't suddenly become not vegan, correct? Would we agree on that?
Yeah. No, I would agree on that. But let's say you learned that they were doing this. They were putting cheese in something that they were selling vegan. You gained knowledge of that, and then you continued to do it. Would you then say it's not
Oh,
vegan?
totally. Like, I can give a personal example. I've had multiple occasions where at Taco Bell, particularly, it's funny, I gave that example, they gave me cheese a bunch of times, and I was like, this is getting ridiculous. This is like I think they failed 3 times, pretty much in
And
a row. So
all
I
right.
stopped going there.
So let me just ask you this. Now, do you actually have to consume it in order to be a non-vegan, or could you just pay for it? Like if you were to pay for, let me ask you this: if you were to pay for the taco with the cheese in it, and then just throw the cheese in the garbage and then eat the taco, would you consider that vegan?
No, I mean, when I'm talking about consuming, I am talking about the purchasing. So yes, that would
Okay,
be
yeah,
the
it's the demand, right?
correct.
Yeah. So if we can do that, buying a fully organic meal or eating a fully organic diet contributes as much demand to animal agriculture as drinking a cup of milk a day, would you say that it's not vegan?
I'm sorry, maybe I lost you somewhere in the middle of the question. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so if we can show you, since you said it was about demand and not just about what is consumed, if we can show you that consuming a fully organic diet, it bare minimum, really it's a lot more than that, but at bare minimum contributes as much demand, really a lot more than consumption of purchasing a cup of milk a day. Would you consider it not vegan?
Um, Not necessarily. So, would you say that, if you don't mind me, putting some questions to you,
Well,
um,
wait. I don't mind it, but I do want you to answer my line of questioning
I said
first.
no, not necessarily.
So what? Why? So
So,
what do you mean? Can you elaborate on that? Why would it not be? What's the difference? What's the symmetry breaker?
sure. So, there are cases where organic can be fully vegan. Would you
I
agree with that?
agree. I agree with that. That's why I'm saying it's my position is as a general heuristic. As a
But that's
general heuristic, it's a
That's
general
what I'm
heuristic.
disagreeing with. That is my question. My contention comes down to the baseline point. Organic is Carnist, not necessarily.
I say as a general heuristic, organic is Carnist.
Can you break that down for me? Because
Yeah, so sure. So there are farms that can be veganic organic. I'm not denying they don't exist. The issue is that they're very fringe compared to the organic farms that just do what organic industries do. They use manure. It's a very fringe practice, and I'm not. And another straw man, which I'm not saying this is your straw man. I'm saying that it's not scalable. I don't know. I don't fully know. I don't. I suspect it's not scalable, by the way, but I don't know that it is not scalable. But it's currently not being used in mass. It currently is not. It is a fringe thing. This veganic organic thing, and look, if there is wide availability for veganic organic, I may even say in that case it may be Carnist to, it may be not vegan as a general heuristic to buy conventional. But
Okay, then I think we agree. I think
but the issue is but the issue is right now, the way things are right now, that's not the case, and the overwhelming majority of organic does contribute far more demand to the animal agriculture industry than conventional. And so that's why I say not, I don't say in every single case, but as a general rule of thumb, organic is Carnist.
Okay, I can understand where you're coming from. What I want to differentiate here is, well, I think this does come down to the empirical evidence, and I'd like to pour over that. But if you would like to put forward some sort of hypothetical to, so we don't just have this be a data study session, I'd be glad to tell you where I stand. But I think that so far we're generally in agreement. But here's my contention, and you kind of popped in here a bit late. I'd expressed a lot of this before, so hopefully this isn't boring for people to listen to. But um, my contention here is that veganism, generally speaking, is working from the consumer end. Would you agree that it is not working from the reseller or distributor or manufacturer slash grower end?
We consider veganism too. And just to be clear, like what you mean by that is just like we're making just choices based on what we purchase, and that creates differential demand. Is that what you mean?
Uh, I that what you said didn't quite process, but let me just try to be a bit more detailed. So when if you're on the street and you're speaking to the majority of people, you're not speaking to them as farmers unless they would present themselves as farmers. So that would be the grower
No, I
manufacturer.
speak to them as I speak to them as purchasers. Yeah, as people who are going to consume. Yeah, consumers.
Right. So generally speaking, we're trying to approach potential vegans from the consumer end. And so we're not trying to speak to, like, if you go and buy from a reseller that's not vegan, or we go and the reseller, maybe they're vegan and they purchase from a distributor that is not vegan, or the distributor purchases from a manufacturer or grower that is not vegan. We're not really speaking to that part, generally speaking, right?
I just want to hear where this is going. Like what's the
Sure.
point?
Well, I just can can I get some agreement on that? I mean, I'm just trying to,
I mean, look, when I just think it's a tangential issue. Like when I speak to people, I think it's like this issue of what my goals are when I speak to people, or when what I advocate is just it's completely tangential to whether something is vegan or not vegan. In act, it's not even what I'm talking about. It's just a completely different topic.
Okay, well, okay, I'll be more speaking more rations with this. So would you say that it is not vegan to shop at a non-vegan reseller?
No, I don't think so, because I think demand is calculated with computer algorithms, and I think if I buy a water bottle at McDonald's, that absolutely that does not, this case that it will result in economic demand for animal agriculture, is I haven't seen any evidence for that. I just haven't, and it's not some old man looking at the books. This is calculated with computers. And if
Okay.
their agent was being rational, if the agent was being rational, and if I'm buying more and more water bottles from McDonald's, then what the rational agent will do at McDonald's is re-up their water bottle supply, not increase the amount of hamburgers they're selling.
Sure. I just, if forgive me, but I'd like to work up the line here. So, would you say that a vegan reseller purchasing from a non-vegan distributor is not vegan?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Would you say that a vegan reseller purchasing their products that they resell from a non-vegan distributor is not vegan or carnivore?
I guess I would just have to get the information. I don't know the details. I would have to get the information on how much economic demand. What do you mean by? I just want to get clarity on what these, because I'm not that deep in economics. So when you say reseller, what are you?
Sure. So I mean, I'm just trying to really break down to a
Just tell
finite
me what
level.
you mean when you say reselling.
When I say reseller, I'm talking about like the grocery store, the farmer's market, someone who would be reselling a product that is either supplied by a manufacturer or distributor, generally by a
Okay,
distributor.
and then there's okay, and so you're saying if they purchase it from a non-vegan distributor. So let's say there's a veggie market that's having vegetables. Um, we're assuming this is a vegetable market that is conventional, not organic, for the sake of the argument, and they're purchasing it from a distributor, and the distributor is not vegan. Is that what we're saying?
Correct.
Yeah. So the issue here is that if we were to purchase the vegetables from the distributor that's not vegan, uh, the if that non-vegan is a rational agent, that non-vegan will just increase their farming of vegetables. We're not giving them incentive to increase their consumption or production of animal products.
Okay, so can we say
yeah.
that we're in agreement that a reseller purchasing from a non-vegan distributor that's a perfectly vegan act? Is that
Yes,
fair?
unless we learn that if we were given the information that they decided to act irrationally. So if we were to say, okay, it turns out we did a little investigation and we found out that even though we're only purchasing plants from these people, if we were given information that they were taking all of that money and irrationally in just purchasing hamburgers with it, then I would say it wouldn't be a non-vegan act. So that's the caveat I would throw in there.
Sorry, I that was just a bit complex. Could you repeat that or
Sure. Yeah. So this is all coming down to whether I am being convinced that there is a differential in economic demand and all easy alternatives are available in this context. So when we talk about purchasing vegetables from a vegan distributor, the underlying is that this distributor is going to be a rational agent and simply increase their production of vegetables and not deviate to increasing their production of animal products. However, so in that case, in the overwhelming majority of cases, we would agree that that is a vegan act. However, if we were to learn otherwise, if we were to learn that this distributor was acting irrationally, that this particular distributor made a decision that they would take all the money from the vegetables that they sell and would simply use it to buy meat, that they would just invest all that meat regardless of the market or anything, they would just act completely irrationally. Then I would say if you had that information, it would be a non-vegan act to buy from that distributor.
Okay, so by proxy, can we like I'll accept that. So I'm not taking that as my own claim, but I will accept what you're saying. And following on that logic, can we say that someone buying from such a reseller that would purchase from that group would be non-vegan as well with that information?
If they learned all of that information, if they learned all of that information, sure. If all of those things were in place and all that information was learned, sure.
So we're going beyond this, beyond the consumer end at this point. We're saying that veganism is about beyond the consumer end of the supply chain.
Oh, veganism is about it's all about. I mean, it's still coming down to consumerism. It's just if they had knowledge of what's going on in the different parts of the supply chain, and how that impacts their point of being a consumer, then sure, then decisions should be made accordingly. Absolutely.
But in other words, if there is a vegan reseller, be it a restaurant or a grocery store, that is purchasing from a non-vegan distributor knowingly, then we should
And we're adding the caveat. We're adding the caveat that we know that we as consumers know that this restaurant is purchasing from this distributor, and we also know that this distributor is acting as an irrational agent to use all their money or something to buy meat or something like that, with all the vegetables that that they're getting money off of. We're adding like all of those things in place, and we have all the knowledge of that. Then yes, we should not go to that restaurant and buy the products for them. If we knew all of that, absolutely, it would not be vegan. Correct.
Am I mistaken that you would be adding also that there's a reasonable alternative?
Yeah. There would be a reasonable alternative, which there clearly would be, because there's a very reasonable assumption to make that people aren't this kind of irrational economic in the overwhelming majority of cases.
Okay, so I understand your position. I won't say that I quite agree at this point. I'm willing to be convinced. I have no particular leaning towards organic over anything else, but can you point out to me, can you show me one single example? That would be great. If we could start with one single example where if I buy I'll just put out an organic tomato or some other vegetable, an organic X vegetable that does exactly what you're saying. Can you point one out to me, because I'd be glad to look at the exact data involved here.
Yeah, sure. So the data comes from, it's an inference that comes from the FAO. So the FAO looks at the nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus that are used from synthetic fertilizers. Are you following so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just that I where would I find? Could I look at this?
Sure. Yeah. And someone linked the study archives. The data is posted in the.
Veggies for Thought. That one, the last one.
Study archives.
Oh, sorry.
It's a Discord. It's a Discord channel. It's a Discord server.
Yeah, I'm in there. Where would I look in there, if you don't?
Yeah, sure. Hold on.
Yeah, it's towards the bottom.
Crop. Let's see.
The study share towards the bottom there.
No. You know what? I'll just post it in general. I'll find it for you.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like I've been through Dr. Avi's calculations as well, and I made an
okay. Okay, here's the primary inference where the data comes from. So if you look at general, I posted the FAO data. And this breaks it down by continent also.
Sorry, I'm seeing YouTube Dr. Avi. Am I going above there?
Look at general chat and AY Discord.
Yeah, I'm looking in there.
Do you see what I just
Veggies
posted?
for Thought link. So I'm not seeing it. I could just.
I'll post it. I mean, it's posted like again and again and again by virtual.
Oh shit!
It's kind of like being spam posted at this point.
Sorry, gotcha. That's great. I think it was just lagging on my end. Okay, so where's the pertinent information that I'd be looking at?
Yeah, so the pertinent information is going to go by continent and just take a look at over time the differential in synthetic fertilizer usage versus manure. So let me see if I can get the pages. Okay, so we can start with figure 9. That's page 20. So this is I mean, we could do it by your continent. Which continent do you live in?
I'm in the U.S.
Okay, so you're in the Americas. Okay, so go to page 20.
Okay, I see.
All right, and you see the manure applied to soils, manure left on pasture, synthetic fertilizer.
Yeah.
Okay, so most manure, and this is why like people that there's so much manure going around are really missing it, is because most of the manure that is just used to regenerate the pasture in the first place, it's just left on the pasture. Manures applied to soils is the manures that are actually used for fertilizer. And do you see the amount of millions of tons of nitrogen? How that's like about 5 millions of tons of nitrogen
5
as of
million.
5 million.
yeah, as of 2010 and later.
On page 20, I'm not seeing.
The pages are labeled by the bottom. Do you see figure 9 where it says figure 9?
Oh,
America.
sorry. I was going by the PDF. Okay. Scrolling to it. Just one. So I'm on 20 now. Sorry about that. 53 million. 53 million. So it's not. It's.
Wait. No. Look at manures applied to soil is the pertinent. We're not looking at manure left on pasture.
Okay. Okay, I see what you're saying. It's between. It's basically just maybe even 4 million, but like raising to.
Yeah, and how many do you see are coming from synthetic fertilizers?
Well, that seems to be increasing over time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So over 20 million as of this point.
Yeah, was it about 25?
Sure. Well, 22 maybe 20.
Okay, sure. I don't have it open anymore, but yeah, we can go with that. And it's just increasing. Like we're using the most present numbers.
And is this? Sorry, I mean, I'm just scrolling through this. So is this referring to organic or are we?
Here's where the organic inference comes to. Because organic across the board doesn't allow for any synthetic fruit. Are you aware of that?
Organic alone. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Okay, so this is referring to all of the farms. Now, organic doesn't allow for any synthetic fertilizers. Are you aware of that? Okay, so all of that 23 million tons, that overwhelming reliance of synthetic fertilizers that are being used by conventional farms, it's clear that that's being used by conventional farms much more than manure. There's the data. That synthetic fertilizers, they're not being used by the organic farms. So if they're not being used by the organic farms, it has to be that they're being used by the conventional farms, given those two options between organic and non-organic. Would you agree with that?
Okay, so in other words, there's like a steady 4 to 5 million that are being tons that are being used by the conventional.
No, there's a steady 20 to 20, like there's a steady approximately 25 million tons of synthetic fertilizer, of nitrogen from synthetic fertilizer that's being used by conventional.
Synthetic fertilizer. Yeah, I was talking about
manure. The manure is not being used. This isn't conventional. This is all farms. It's pooled conventional. That manure usage is pooled conventional and organic. If you were to only do conventional, usage would drop even further.
And where do I see that data?
It's an inference because organic doesn't use any synthetic fertilizer. They're fully reliant on non-synthetic fertilizer sources. So look, this is the data from everything pooled together. Now, if we were to just look at organic, all of that nitrogen being used for synthetic fertilizers would be gone because they don't allow any synthetic fertilizers. Are we in agreement so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so then where does the rest of their nitrogen demand come from? So if we're at a starting point of 5 million, and we're just going to standardize all this to the amount of food produced, then where does the rest of their nitrogen come from? If they can't get it from the synthetic fertilizers.
Well, one would think from the animal manure.
Yeah, the animal manure. That's based on the data. That's where its overwhelming reliability comes from.
But this is where I'm seeing a debate definitionally that I'm speaking definitionally the idea that organic is Carnist. If you said organic is Carnist as a general heuristic,
It's a general heuristic. That's my position.
okay, that would be a little bit more descriptive, but the organic is Carnist statement seems to be much more inflammatory to say
So
that
in the Michelle Lowe debate, I don't know if you watched. Did you watch the Michelle Lowe debate?
yeah, I have.
And I said, I think I'm almost positive I specifically said as a general heuristic, organic is Carnist in that debate.
I'm not debating that at all.
Oh, okay.
I'm suggesting that there is a problem in the framing of this that organic is Carnist unilaterally.
So then we don't disagree on anything. Look, I've made it clear. I've tried to make it as clear as I can. I'll do it again. If you have a fringe case where organic is veganic organic, it's not a problem on my view. In fact, it may be a problem to do by conventional.
Right, but then in that sense, this is, I mean, maybe we're
As a general heuristic. Well, do we understand each other now? As a general heuristic, organic is Carnist.
I'm not in full agreement on there. I'm willing to go further on that, but I was
okay. Great. So we were going through the data. And now we went back to the original point I thought we covered already.
No, so what you're presuming by inference because they don't use synthetic that implies they're not vegan, and we don't really have a.
Well, no, I don't. I'm not saying in all cases. I'm saying they're generally not vegan because they don't use synthetic, and therefore they're using far more food than conventional.
So can we look at that relevant data?
Yeah, so there's some relevant data for that in the UK when they look at the types of manure used. That's in the study archives on Statistica. But even just this alone, even if I didn't have that data, I don't see how it doesn't follow. Just looking at how much of the nitrogen is relied for by synthetic fertilizers. How does it not follow? How does it not follow that if you were to take those synthetic fertilizers away, that there wouldn't be this differential in economic demand?
Well, I can tell you where I disagree on that, but I want to.
Well, I want to hear. I want to hear where you disagree with that because this is like an inference that's accepted in the peer-reviewed literature. There's like I can show you like this inference being mentioned in among scientists in the peer-reviewed literature. Like this is an accept. It's only a point of contention in this weird organic carnism. Like in the scientific world, this is not something that's contested.
Okay, I just want to clarify. I mean, I'm perfectly fine to go into that, but I just want to clarify where we both stand on the debate proposition. That when I say organic is vegan, I'm speaking to the unknown quantity of organic which can qualify as not deriving.
Okay, that's not what we're talking about. Two different things then. Okay, so then we're just talking about two different things. So when I say that organic, that as a general heuristic, organic is Carnist, I am saying that I'm not saying that all cases of organic food are Carnist. I'm saying that it is a good general rule of thumb to avoid organic unless you have information that they're organic. And the reason for that is because you can make a reasonable inference based on the data from the FAO that they use more plant products, use far more animal products than per amount of plant product than conventional.
Yeah,
what's wrong with that?
No, I'm actually fine with that. So
great. So we don't disagree on anything.
Okay, so here's what I see a problem with. This Discord is based on a bunch of personal attacks. So you guys say, all right,
well, okay, I gotta go. I'm not okay. I look, we don't disagree on anything. Now you're just talking about the meta. So I'm gonna go take a shower.
Well, that's he conceded defeat then, because that was not what the debate proposition was about. He conceded defeat just by leaving right now.
Well, if you want to take a look at some of the data, I could go through some of the data with you. Like I've taken a look at Dr. Avi's calculations.
No, he ran away.
Okay.
I don't care about Dr. Avi's calculations. He just ran away from the debate.
Wait. Just one sec. Like let's just forget about the meta. Like I don't care like who ran away or who won. Like you care about like what actually is right and like knowing the data and like forming an opinion that is stronger, right? Like That's what I care about. I don't care about like who won the debate or who ran away.
No,
Like,
I don't either. But I'm just saying that there are people commenting that I'm retarded. That
like
I
don't
concede
worry
defeat.
about it.
I
Like
don't
let's
concede
just
defeat because I just won. He left on the point that he knows that organic is not necessarily Carnist. That was my position.
well, okay. Do you want to look at the data? Like
I mean,
okay.
yeah, but let's just all take a second to pause and reflect that he ran away because he recognizes that he's wrong. Very simply. And you guys go ahead, please. Mr. Non-boosting Alabamian, please come on voice chat and tell me that I'm retarded and explain why. Please.
But you realize meat's not necessarily Carnist either, right? You could just get some roadkill or find some lab meat, right?
Man,
Sure.
What are you
real. I just want to look at the data. I just want to look at the data. Can we look at the data?
Dude, I'm down. I just want to tell you I'm down. I just
Okay,
want to
awesome. Okay.
recognize that this ego match here that he just left from, he just conceded defeat. That's what happened right here. Okay? And ask yourself just left too, because he knows that he's fucking wrong. This has been an ego battle. And they fucking lost. Very simply. I'm totally down to go over the data with you.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so
Owned. Just want to say to the rest of you fucking little parroters here, owned. Please come on voice chat. Please try to show me that I'm retarded. You guys wanna fucking pearl clutch over here? Keep doing it.
Actually, yeah. You want to talk about that, buddy?
Yeah, please do.
All right, yeah.
Please
So,
do.
the general point was that Avi never agreed that organic, all of it as a general, like any organic ever is Carnist. His point was
But
that
that's not the
most.
statement. That's not the
Then
statement
you guys
was
don't
organic
disagree
as
on shit.
Carnist.
Wait, then you guys don't disagree on shit, and him leaving.
That's fine, but
did
stop
not,
making the statement organic as Carnist. That's the point of contention.
that.
That's what people are contending about here. So
Okay,
stop grandstanding, stop the pearl clutching.
so
Actually have a conversation with vegan to vegan, not make it about someone's a lunatic, someone's wrong. Actually have a conversation, vegan to vegan. I'm vegan, you're vegan. Let's have a
wait.
conversation.
So do you agree with what Beyond said earlier?
Can you refer to exactly what was said?
He mentioned that meat isn't always Carnist because you can eat stuff like roadkill.
Sure, that's fine. Sure.
Yeah, so I'm saying meat isn't always Carnist either, right? But you call meat Carnist.
No, I didn't.
You don't call meat Carnist?
No.
Okay. I mean I guess that's and that's an interesting position to take, but I would just say that in general when we say something is Carnist, we don't mean 100% like, oh, anything that possibly comes from this like is automatically wrong. No, I think that would be kind of dogmatic if anything.
Right. As I specified before, generally speaking, when we're speaking to potential vegans, we're speaking from the consumer end. So we're not speaking to the reseller, we're not speaking to the distributor, we're not speaking to the manufacturer or grower. We're speaking to the consumer end. And from the consumer end, if you're not purchasing a product, if you're not creating demand for a product, then yes, you are consistent with veganism. And yeah, you could technically consume meat. Although I think that there's just some issues biologically with that. There's some issues culturally with endorsing eating meat, but you're not creating that demand.
Okay, so why did you say that he like forfeited or conceded or something?
Yeah, just to
Because
be clear, that the numbers are like 99% of organic is Carnist. There's a very small amount that's veganic, but
well,
of
you're
course,
speaking to what's recorded in terms of the market. There's plenty of people who grow their own produce. There's co-ops.
do you think he conceded anything?
Absolutely. He left on the point that we essentially didn't disagree on my original proposition that organic is vegan. He left and he conceded on that point. Correct.
I don't think that was ever something he was.
Wait, can you repeat that again?
He left conceding to the point that organic is vegan. Even
No,
whatever
no,
percentage you want to say that organic is
no,
vegan. Yeah.
no. Okay, I think you're taking one thing he said and then you're stretching it to complete the other part you want. So
We can, but you're very muddled. Okay, I
Isaac.
don't know why I'm muddled, but just
Okay, you're good now. You're good now. You're good now.
Your mic is low. Sorry.
Okay, well, I recorded it, so don't worry about Tully making false claims. It's just going to be on the record, and you can just timestamp it.
Oh, it's on the record for sure. It's on the record there, buddy. You want to call me a lunatic? Go ahead. Tell me why. It's on the record. It's on the record that he left conceding the point that organic is vegan. Correct.
I think Veggie's data and charts might be able to help us out with this.
No, I mean the point's been stated. Organic is vegan. Oh, there you go. Calling me a retard. Is that an argument? Not an argument. Sorry. Anybody got an
Veggies,
argument?
do your charts have anything to say about this?
Oh, let the audience decide. Please let the audience decide. Avi just left to take a shower because he realizes he's wrong. Organic as Carnist is not a unilaterally true statement. That's why Isaac just left, because he doesn't have an argument.
No, he left to shower because he's steaming.
No, I'm not strawmanning anybody. No, I'm not strawmanning.
Wait.
That's not what I was debating. That was not my original debate proposition.
Okay, but look, there was look. Just to be clear, though, before Avi came in and before we started the recording, there was a part where you said general heuristic is a sophist tactic, and then we did debate whether or not it is a sophist tactic. And the problem is that when we say something like organic is Carnist, that's just a shorthand where we're making the assumption that we're not talking about the 99 point. We're not talking about the 0.0000001% of organic farming that is vegan. We're talking about like the gross majority of organic.
Okay, so this whole question, why did Avi leave to take a shower? I'm not saying he left because he lost. I'm saying that he lost and then he left.
Okay, whatever. The point just remains that Avi hasn't conceded anything.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
in fact, he
that's
did.
what I was saying.
Okay, in the recording.
Which
as Ask Yourself said, it's in the recording.
Which proposition do you think you changed his view of?
Organic? No, I didn't change his view. That's not the whole point.
So what did he concede?
It's that my proposition stood as true, that organic is vegan.
In what sense? Like 99.9999999.
I'm not. No, there's no percentage with veganism. Either it's vegan or it's not. Organic is vegan.
Okay, so look, if I had no, you understand though that on your basis, right? If like 0.0000001% of a system is vegan, then that implies that the entirety of the system is vegan. That we actually now have to include all meat consumption as being vegan.
No.
Yes, because
I think you missed a whole lot of what happened before Avi even joined.
I was here from the beginning. I was the person who set this debate up. I've been listening the entire time. The problem is when we say it is not vegan to consume meat, we are talking generally as a heuristic that when you have a steak put in front of you, that is not vegan. Now there is going to be some amount.
Oh, what if it was a road-killed cow?
Right. But look, if that's your view, right? If you say
I'm
that,
not talking about my view. I'm asking about your view.
Yeah, I think that's vegan. But on your view, eating meat is no longer.
You want to be more correct about what you're
saying? No.
Can you hear me now? Am I coming through now?
You're perfect now.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, I mean, just to see if people are kind of reading this in the same way as Tell, let's just put a vote in general if you heard Avi concede. So it's 1 for yes and it's 2.
Oh, come on. Don't do the appeal to popularity bullshit.
Look, even the non-vegan...
No, Tell, don't try to talk over me.
That's what's going on.
Don't try to talk over me, I'll just mute you. I know you. You're a huge sophist. We've already dealt with you before. No, there's no appeal to popularity, right? I'm not claiming someone is correct in virtue of what people think. I'm just showing you what people think. So that was the false claim. There's no appeal to popularity.
Are you saying that the votes determine what's correct?
No, obviously I'm not.
Okay, then we can ignore that entirely. So let's get down to the facts. So wait, the
purpose of the vote is just to show you how people received the situation. So you appear to have gotten that message, but everyone else, or at least 95% of the other people appear not to.
Right, it's in the recording, as you said. So did he or did he not concede that organic can be vegan?
Of course, he concedes it can be vegan. That's not a concession, though. He's held
that was the debate. That was a debate proposition. So again, he conceded and he left on that.
Avi would never have debated you on the proposition organic can be vegan. He's well known to hold the position that organic can be vegan.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Veganic being vegan.
Okay, so
can we just level with you? Look, Avi basically, as the claim became clear, as you understood what he's actually saying, which is that as a general heuristic, organic is Carnist, which he's said plenty of times, and he's many times, constantly pointed out that there are organic things that are vegan, right? It seems like as you realize the claim, you just eventually realized, oh, that's not that controversial. I agree. And now you're sitting here trying to somehow spin it into Avi conceding to. You didn't concede shit. No, you just realized his claim wasn't bad, and you agreed with it. It's fine.
No, I don't agree with the essential point, but I'm getting down to what my proposition was.
Sorry, just to be clear, did you not grant to him that as a general heuristic it's Carnist? I thought you did agree with him on that.
No, I didn't
grant thinking that you agreed with him on that led to him leaving, right? Oh, okay. Well, you should continue the debate at some point.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. For sure.
No, I was pretty sure I did hear you say that. I'll have to check the recording. Am I alone there? Like, I'm curious. Did not a bunch of other people hear him?
He did concede that.
No, I didn't. I qualified my statement. I said I'll accept what you're saying for the sake of argument, but I did not accept the conclusion personally. I said that.
I'm skeptical if that's accurate, but if it is, okay, you should just do another debate with him, right? If you think that there's something to challenge him on. But it seems like you don't even think there's anything to challenge him on now.
No, I definitely do. I just don't think that we got down to it because the point was my debate proposition that organic is vegan. And from the beginning, he conceded that. So it's done.
Organic is vegan. Well, that's just ambiguous. He conceded that organic can be vegan. He didn't concede that organic as a general heuristic is vegan. He would disagree with that and say as a general heuristic, it's Carnist.
But I wasn't speaking about general heuristic. I said if
but he's not disagreeing. He's not disagreeing that there are organic things that are vegan. Do you disagree with his claim that as a general heuristic, it's Carnist?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what you should debate him on, because that's the thing you actually disagree about, right? The thing you're saying you want to debate, he doesn't disagree with you about. He agrees that organic can be vegan.
Right, and on that point, he conceded, and then he left.
Well, it's not look, it's not a concession if someone's already clearly held the position, right?
But there's still a conceptual issue here.
Everyone, well, please tell him whatever the conceptual issue is, but just the thing is, like, everyone in here has watched Avi debate a ton of times and have countless times heard him say, now, my claim is not that organic categorically is not vegan. I would agree that there's veganic organic, and that's a fringe thing that makes up whatever. Like, he goes on this whole ramble about it. We've all heard it a million times. No one's going to believe you when you say that you just got him to concede it. Everyone knows it's his position.
So if I say something is something, does that not categorically... Is that not a categorical statement?
It's ambiguous when you say something is something. Are you saying
X is Y? Is that not a categorical statement?
It's ambiguous because it's not clear if you're saying the whole category of X is or just that some instance of X can be, right? It's like, are you quantifying over a whole category of things? Or are you just saying that there exists a thing, right? Like, you can even represent it in logic. You can ask if you're using a universal or an existential quantifier. Right? Are you saying there is something that's organic that's vegan? Because no one disagrees with that. Avi would agree with that, and he constantly points it out. If you're saying organic as a category is vegan or something like that, of course he would disagree with that.
Well, I'm not seeing maybe you could differentiate those two. I mean, would you say that?
Of course. Well, wait. So let me do that. Let me do that for you, right? Because if you don't understand the difference between those claims, then that's probably why you're not understanding where the concession or lack of concession or whatever is. Okay. So there's one claim that's organic categorically is Carnist. For all X, if X is organic, X is Carnist. That is not the claim he's making, right? Now, there's a different claim that is there exists something that is organic and that is vegan, right? And he doesn't disagree with that either. So you understand there's a difference there between saying there is something in the category organic that is vegan versus saying the category organic is vegan. Or I can phrase it the other way around using the word carnist. It's different to say this is true of everything in the category or this is true of one thing. So by analogy, right, there exists a human who's over 6 feet tall. It's not true that the whole category of humans is over 6 feet tall.
Okay, but I think I get what you're saying. Can I clarify here?
Yeah.
So as Bryn said recently, a piece of steak is not vegan. Would you say that's categorically true?
It's not a categorical statement about organic products.
No,
I don't wait,
specifically,
but let's just be well. No, when I'm talking about a category, I'm talking about the category organic, right? So that's not a claim about the category organic. That's a claim about a specific product that's organic or whatever. But what do you look? This I'm just trying to understand. What do you think you're disagreeing with him about, right? Because he doesn't disagree with the claim that there exists something that is organic that is vegan. He disagrees. Yeah, what he's saying, his position is that as a general rule, organic is carnist. He's not saying every organic thing is carnist, right? Do you understand the difference between that?
Yes.
Right. So do you disagree with one of them, or what's the deal?
Yeah, I do disagree with his general statement, and I tried to explain why. I don't know. I mean, Bryn says he was here for most of it, but perhaps I'll re-explain it for people who popped in later.
I'll just say something right now before you go into your reasoning, okay? Because what he thought happened there, and what I thought happened, and what I think a lot of people probably thought happened, was it sounded to him and to all of us like you conceded the thing about as a category, generally speaking, the category being carnist, right? Now, if you're saying you didn't, then okay, let's just say it's a miscommunication. I'm a bit skeptical of that, but whatever. If that's not what you meant, then that's what you should debate him on, right? There was never any contention over the proposition that there exists something that is organic that's vegan.
Right.
So just follow up with him at some point. Just tell him that there's a confusion and you actually don't agree that as a general heuristic organic is carnist. And I'm sure he'll have the conversation with you again. He's not running away from you.
Right.
He thinks that you conceded and then tried to go to another topic. That's why he left.
Okay, I accept that, but I'd be glad to revisit it. I was simply speaking to the original debate proposition, which was not necessarily aimed at him. It was just aimed at anybody who has a counter position, and I would say that my position stands as true. That organic is carnist. I'm not speaking categorically. I'm speaking as within any context that you cannot categorically say that organic is 100% non-vegan.
No one's disagreeing with that. Bryn, what was the thing you wanted to point out to him?
Okay. Well, I mean, it's pretty trivial. So if I say, like, if I put forward the proposition organic is vegan, what do you think the truth condition of that statement?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
If I say organic is vegan, do you think that's true or false?
True.
Okay. If I say if I say eating meat is vegan, is that true or
true?
You think that if I say eating meat is vegan, that's a true statement?
Yeah, it depends on the context. Context is important.
I mean, certainly the context is important, but like if I were just to walk up to someone and say, like, is like eating meat is vegan, do you think that they're going to interpret that the way that you're meaning it? Or do you think that generally speaking, the way that they're going to interpret it is it would be okay for me to categorically eat meat?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think you're kind of making my point for me that we have to specify based on context. And so,
no, I think my point is that language works in these very short ways. We have shortcuts, right? So, for example, when I say it is not vegan to eat eggs, what I mean by that is that in the vast majority of cases, it is not vegan to eat eggs.
Right. You're not happening on an egg in the middle of the forest.
Right. It's not a deductive statement, right? It's not some like analytic identity. The point is just that when we say something like organic is carnist, there's a few reasons why that's pragmatic. The first is that 99.9999999% of organic is carnist. So it's not even really pragmatically worth considering veganic
Well, I
farming is like
disagree
an
with
actual.
that, but that wasn't my debate proposition.
Sure, I mean we can figure out the actual number. It's stupidly low. If it's closer to like 99.99%, that's still going to hold true.
No, I'm willing to talk about that. I'm willing to talk about the 99.9%.
Right.
I'm willing to talk about that, but I just want to accept that there's something else.
No, the point just is the point just is if I say eating meat.
Wait, I ran away. I want to come back and try again. I just I figured I wouldn't concede, so I realized that my running away was conceding, and I realized that. And that I was just fleeing in some way. And
no, I'm not sure what message you got. That is not what I said.
Yeah, I just thought that we agreed, and then you started talking about how you were insulted by the things people were saying, and I just didn't see that as relevant. So what do we disagree on?
We disagree on the rest of it. I would say that I was starting with that organic is not necessarily non-vegan. That was essentially my proposition. I said organic is vegan, but
yes. So So the fringe minority of organic is vegan. Sure.
Okay, so we can agree on that, and that's all I wanted to get agreement on. But beyond that, I'm perfectly willing to talk about vegan to vegan here. What is your position and how that is true? Because I haven't seen the evidence of that.
Yeah. So my position is that unless organic, when you look at the data from the FAO, the overwhelming majority of manure, an overwhelming majority of fertilizer that conventional uses is not manure. The overwhelming majority, I'll say it again, the overwhelming majority of fertilizer that conventional uses is not manure. The plants that you buy from conventional are in the overwhelming majority of those nutrients did not come from manure.
Okay,
they came from synthetic fertilizer.
So you did concede. I just want to verify.
No, what concession? The concession implies that I had a position that disagreed with you, and then I was shown to be wrong. Like, no, it's like you just misunderstood my position.
I was about to lead into what it's not.
No,
we
agree on the no. You don't know what a concession is.
I do.
What is a concession?
Not go there.
No, we're going to go there because you're saying I agreed that I conceded.
Right. And I was about to elaborate on what it was.
All right. What does a concession mean?
Concession would be acknowledgement of an agreement that I'm correct on my debate proposition.
Okay, no. That's a consent. No.
That's actually what a concession is. Do you want to look up the definition? Do you want to go over this one?
If I agreed with you on the debate proposition, then no, it's not a concession. It's just me agreeing with you. If everyone agrees with you to begin with, are they all conceding to you?
Then we weren't debating. Then there was no debate.
It was you misunderstanding what my view was on that specific debate proposition.
Or the converse, which is that you misunderstood what my debate proposition was.
No, I didn't. No, I don't think so. I don't think I ascribed any position to you at all.
Could I just say something quickly before Avi started debating? Like I was having a chat with this guy, and I even said, like, you asked, does Avi think that all organic is Carnist? And I said, no, Avi obviously wouldn't think that veganic organic is Carnist. That would be silly.
Yeah, so I mean, look, what my position is that as a general heuristic, organic is Carnist, and that's because of the discrepancy based on the sentiment that's echoed in the peer-reviewed literature, based on the data from the FAO. The overwhelming majority of the nutrients from the plants that you purchase are not from manure in the conventional case.
Right. My debate proposition was not countering that. So we have agreement on my debate proposition.
Your debate proposition wasn't something that was being debated.
Sure. So we can move on to what your debate proposition is.
Great. So let's talk about what my position actually is. Okay, so my position is if something is Carnist, it's probably if something is organic. If plant products are organic, they are probably Carnist. Not they are always Carnist. They are probably Carnist.
Sure. And so can you? So this is where I'd like to differentiate what exactly, because this is what I was talking about before you entered, which I guess Bryn heard. But just for I tried to lead into this. I just wanted to get concession on this point that
What do you
you
mean when you say concession? I really like. What is it that you are meaning when you use that word?
what we mean when we're talking generally speaking about what is vegan and what is not.
What do you mean when you say concession?
You're speaking to a certain level of the supply chain, correct?
What do you mean when you say concession?
I mean that you are admitting some amount of that I am correct in what I'm saying.
Okay,
Versus what
so
you're
if what you're saying is okay, so even if I agreed with you to begin with and never had a different position than you, you would describe that as conceding to you.
No, if there's no
Okay, so
debate
what do you
at the
mean? So what do
forefront,
you mean when you're saying I'm conceding? I just really want to know what.
yeah, the debate here is on that, whatever you want to say, 99% of organic. And, I was originally talking about that there is an exception that for sure we can agree is vegan, and we agree on that.
Yeah, so I would say I'm agreeing with you on that, and I never disagreed with you on that. I wouldn't say I'm conceding that to you. I'm
Okay,
not conceding.
so let's try to get some agreement on what we're talking about in terms of what part of the supply chain. So there's the consumer end, there's the reseller, there's the distributor, and there's the manufacturer and or grower end of the spectrum here. And if we're speaking, are you speaking to the consumer when you say organic is generally carnist or non-vegan?
Again, we went over this, right? We've already been through this. So I think if the information is there at all points in the chain, and so long as that information is spelled out there with ease of alternatives, of course, then you can have non-vegan things at any point in the chain as long as the consumer has knowledge of that. If people are acting irrationally, remember the irrational actor?
Okay, so but then this
I'm getting a little frustrated because we've already went through this and we've moved on from that. I don't know why you want to do it again, but we can do it again.
I don't think we've moved on. The problem is I was about to dive into this and then you left. That was the issue.
All right, no, you were talking, you were complaining about how you didn't like the way people were talking, and that's why I left, because you were just giving me more meta. Okay, great. So again, let's talk. We can talk about that. Great. So then let's say someone's buying from a distributor. Let's say we're buying from a distributor.
Yeah, your veggie grill, fully vegan restaurant that is buying from a non-vegan.
Yeah, buying from and it turns out that they're being irrational and using all the money that they're getting from the vegetables. They're using it to buy.
Let me nail down that point. So what percentage makes it non-vegan? Is it any? Is it $1? Is it
That's a great question, and I may not know the answer to that question. However, if we can agree that the answer.
Before we continue, can I just point something out? I didn't hear if you got him to accept this, but I've just linked the video here. This is just one of the many instances where you've said this, but here's your conversation with Michelle. So at 53 seconds, you can go there, Tully. He says, "I'll take the position that organic as a heuristic is Carnist." And then at 2:32, you can hear where Avi corrects Michelle when she says that he's claiming all organic is Carnist. So I don't think you can say you got a concession because we can just show him on record stating those very claims like a week ago.
Okay, I can accept that. That's not what I'm trying to nail down.
Okay,
I'm trying to nail down.
You're going on and on about how he conceded, but I'm glad you accept he didn't concede.
Okay, I can avoid the word concession. I'm simply trying to get at an acknowledgement, a mutual understanding here, and from the standpoint of a mutual understanding, can we can we understand at what point something is vegan or not vegan in terms of we nailed down
we nailed it down to the demand for a cup of milk a day. That's where I don't need to give you the exact threshold. I just need to say if there's this level and you are saying, okay, this level of demand of a cup of milk a day, that's for sure not vegan. If I can show you that that's the level for the differential between a conventional and organic diet, then I have you exactly where I want you. So I don't need to give you this threshold of exactly where it starts and where it ends. I just need to say in a clear area where you would say, "Oh, this is clearly not vegan." If I can just show you that in the organic case, that's what you're approximating to. That's what you're getting at. Really, you're more a Steelman calculation.
No,
Then
I don't agree. I don't agree.
Why not? Why not?
When you're so I mean it's just that you're being too general or ambiguous in your
Okay,
terminology.
look, let me ask you this. If someone look, if someone buys, let me ask it to you this way. If someone buys if there's a supermarket selling vegetables and it turned out that they were fertilizing their vegetables with a cup of milk a day. And it turned out that it just came out to be that the economic demand of you buying those vegetables, whether it's at any level of the chain, came out to be the equivalent demand of buying a cup of milk a day. Is it vegan?
If you could literally equate buying a cup of milk a day, in other words, bringing demand for 1 cup of milk a day to anything in the organic sphere, I'm against that. We would agree.
Okay, good, great. So in the overall, the empirical case that I'm going to lay out, that I can lay out to you, is that in the overall majority of cases, organic is really that.
I mean, I
really
don't agree at this point. I'd
Okay,
be
great.
willing to.
So let's go through the data. Let's go through it. Okay, so you've looked at the FAO data. You acknowledged that the overwhelming majority of manure is used from synthetic fertilizers in the conventional context? Yes or no? The overwhelming majority of fertilizer, of the nutrients.
Yeah, the majority is synthetic according to that study that we saw. 2000.
Okay. And do you accept that all synthetics are not allowed to be used in organic?
Generally speaking,
I actually think it's pretty universal. I haven't seen a single synthetic fertilizer that's allowed to be used in any I actually am not sure in any of the major organic certifications for sure, but even the local ones, I'm pretty sure if there's one thing that's pretty universal in organic, it's, I could be wrong, but if there's anything pretty universal in organic, it's prohibition of synthetic fertilizers.
I'm willing to accept what you're saying as for the sake of argument, but I would like to see the data because I can't speak to that at this
Well,
moment.
you're in America. I can definitely tell you USDA organic absolutely prohibits synthetic fertilizers.
So then, how can you even speak to the 1% or less than 1%?
And it's a heuristic. Again, dude, why are we going back to all? I'm saying as a heuristic.
Because you haven't shared the data.
You're okay, dude. The data will apply as a heuristic, not as all cases. You're going back. Why are you going back to the 1% of organic?
I don't know what percentage it is. I'm just taking your word.
Okay. So you wouldn't. Okay, the point. All right, listen. Look, we're going to use the data for the purposes of a heuristic. We're not going to use the data for a universal claim for every single thing. Again, the proposition on the table is as a heuristic, organic is Carnist.
Right, which I don't accept based on the fact
Great.
that
So let's go through the data. Let's go. Okay, I showed you the FAO data. You've seen that there's a great differential between the vegan sources of fertilizer and the non-vegan sources of fertilizer, right?
I've seen that.
Hello?
I've seen from the end of conventional that you have shown that synthetic is predominantly used, and manure from animals is in the minority there.
Yeah. And do you accept that organic, in the overwhelming majority of cases, does not allow for synthetic fertilizers?
I can accept it for the sake of argument. I haven't seen the data, so
this is universally accepted. This is like everyone agrees to this. Okay, great. So if they don't allow for synthetic fertilizers, then they need nitrogen for their plants. Do you agree with that? Where's the extra nitrogen coming from?
Well, I mean, it could come from plant sources, but I can accept for the sake of argument it comes from animal sources.
We can go into the plant sources. So nitrogen, like nitrogen fixating legumes and stuff like that. The data actually shows that it's incredibly low, and it wouldn't make up for barely. It wouldn't change the calculations by more than 6%. So
sure,
yeah. So that doesn't end up working. Great. So we can steelman a calculation.
But I'm not getting calculations. I don't think you're understanding my case here. You haven't really let me lay out the case.
I thought you wanted me to lay out the case.
Well, I'm disagreeing with your position, and I'm saying.
Why do you disagree?
I'm disagreeing from the consumer end, because if you're let me just say, if you're speaking to only the farmer, it's just you talking to a farmer, and you're saying, what is the vegan option? I'm totally with you. The taking from animal sources, essentially supporting animal agriculture. I'm totally with you that from the farmer end, or manufacturer as it's called in the supply chain, that would be a problem. That would be non-vegan. I'm with you there.
Okay, but as a consumer, you're saying it's not non-vegan.
Correct.
Okay, let me ask you this. So if your position is only at the consumer end, it matters. Let's say you're going to buy, lettuce from a market, right? And the grocery store was buying their lettuce from a producer that rounded up a bunch of children or humans or whatever and slaughtered them and used their blood to fertilize the lettuce. If you're only talking to the consumer at the consumer end, would you say those things are ethical? If they were doing it from slaughtering cows, would you say it is ethical to do that? If they're only using blood to fertilize the blood of slaughtered cows or whatever, we could come up with any hypothetical. Would you say that makes it somehow vegan then? If you knew that information, if somebody you knew everything, you knew that this specific grocery store they go out of their way to get their lettuce from this producer, and this producer goes out of their way to slaughter a bunch of cows and use the blood for fertilizer.
I think that's lacking context. So in the context,
what context is lacking?
The context that the consumer doesn't have a say on what they're going to use.
What? The consumer has a say. The consumer buys something, assuming there is an alternative where you can buy lettuce from a safe assumption that that's not, as opposed to a case where you know that is happening.
I don't agree. Let me explain.
Wait. If provided all of that was in place, provided that the consumer has option A, lettuce A and lettuce B. Lettuce A comes from a supplier that is going out of their way to slaughter beings and fertilize the lettuce with their blood. Lettuce B, the other option, you don't know. You could be either one, but you know in lettuce A that that's what they're doing. Is there a more ethical option to pick from here?
Possibly.
Possibly?
There needs to be more context.
What context is missing?
How the consumer is able to influence that decision.
Oh, by purchasing lettuce B instead of lettuce A.
Lettuce B, you said, is not. It's an unknown. Could be more. It could be less.
Yeah. No. It's okay. all the data indicates, let's say that all the data indicates that it's less likely. Well, it could be, no. All the data indicates that it's less likely that they're going to use that. And then lettuce A, all the data indicates that it's more likely that they're going to do that. Is there a more ethical option here? Let's stipulate that too.
Sure. If you're talking about the nitrogen from the blood of the animals, then yes, the one that uses less would be the more ethical option.
So
it would be
the
less
problem,
harm.
yes. Would one be not vegan?
I would not go that far to say one is vegan or not.
Okay, let me ask you this. Let's say that they were just slaughtering a bunch of. There was one option, lettuce A, and they were slaughtering 100 cows. Let's just make it as crazy as possible. They were slaughtering 100 cows per head of lettuce. They were just pouring the blood everywhere. And lettuce B, that it was just a conventional farm, and they're using the current synthetic fertilizer to manure ratio. If you have just as easy choice between lettuce A and lettuce B, is picking lettuce A vegan?
Both could or could not be vegan.
Oh, really? Okay. So let me ask you.
I feel like you're having trouble understanding what vegan means.
What do you mean by vegan then?
What do you mean by vegan? That's what I'm asking.
Just to be clear, just to be clear. So just if lettuce A is, and you know all of this, you know that lettuce A, every head of lettuce you buy, you're going to slaughter. Let's just say it's a ridiculous hypothetical like that. You would still say that it's vegan to buy that lettuce when lettuce B is available.
It could be.
Okay. All right. Well, if that's your conception of vegan, I mean, then I guess talking about two different things here. I mean,
sure. I think we need to nail down what we mean by vegan, because either vegan
is
an on-off switch.
Yeah, I mean, what I mean is, it's just a way of veganism to me is just a way of being logically consistent from our best efforts at a moral system for humans, and just logically consistently applying that to animals.
I agree.
Great.
But
Great.
It depends on how that's applied.
Great. So if they were slaughtering, let's say buying a head of lettuce A was going to cause 100 humans, and lettuce B would not. Would it be ethical to buy lettuce A when you could easily buy lettuce B?
You're saying that unilaterally, sorry, I may have misunderstood, but lettuce B would be zero.
Let's just say it would be 0, or let's say it would be 1.
Yeah, that would be the vegan option.
Great. Well, then it's not true that you're only talking to the consumer then.
No.
Yeah. Guess what? Because now you're impacting the distributor. Sorry.
No.
Now you're including
from
the
consumer end.
No,
you're misrepresenting your question.
Now you are talking to the consumer as if the problem here is you tried to say at first that the distributor factors about the distribution don't actually matter when you're talking to the consumer. That doesn't impact whether it's vegan or not. If you want to give that answer that you just gave, you would have to concede, and I'm using the word concede here now. You would have to concede that those factors do matter if they're known.
The factors matter indeed, but insofar as they impose a decision on any end of the supply chain.
Right. But this is, and I'm saying in the organic case, that's a clear case where those factors matters, and you can make a decision in the end of the consumer end of the supply chain by not buying organic.
I get what you're saying, but there's an issue with suggesting this as as a general heuristic when you do not have that, or when you haven't presented that data.
Great.
So I
can dude. Every time I go into the data and start presenting the data, you go back to this consumer end thing. Now could we agree that we've tied off the consumer end thing? We're not going to go back to that, right? We're not going to go back to that.
Well, no, I can't say that because it's
about how. Because here were the derails. Here were the derails. Ready? Derail number 1 was when I was going through the data. You went through the derail and started going back to the 1% of organics that weren't doing this. That's a derail. We already agreed that wasn't my position. Then you went back. Derail number 2, when I was presenting the data again. Derail number 2 was you started going on about talking to the consumer end. Now we've already hashed that out, and we've agreed that if the consumer can make a decision, if consumerism can impact, which it can in the case of organic versus conventional, then the consumer would be vegan and some would not be vegan. So we're not going to go back to that again when I'm in the middle of presenting the data, right?
No, hold on. Can the consumer, from your position, let's not talk about organic versus conventional. Let's just talk about organic for a second. Can the consumer influence which way the organic market goes, more vegan or less?
I don't know. I think they can. I think if people were to know, if organic farmers were to know that the vegans were not buying their products anymore because of these reasons, if we were to have this, if these debates were to get more public, if there would be more outreach, I think a decent amount of organics organic farms would increase their veganic. Yeah, I mean that's my speculation, but yeah, I think we absolutely can have impacts.
Okay, so then to suggest that I shouldn't go back to that is quite erroneous.
No, it's not erroneous at all. Because you're asking me for something else, and I was presenting the data. So, look, when I'm presenting the data, you're going back to something we already covered, we already hashed out, we already agreed to. So again, we agree that the consumer can make a difference. The consumer can make a difference, and the way we can make a difference is by, in the case of organic, by not buying it, and when we not buy it, when we stop buying organic, they will, as a general heuristic, they're going to wake up and they're going to see vegans stop buying it, and they're going to say, oh, we should change our practices. And when that happens, we could buy it again, as a general heuristic.
Seems legit to me.
Great. So in the meantime, we should not buy organic. Great, as a general heuristic.
Right.
Okay.
I'm with you. Like that's fine, but that's just vegan to vegan. That's not about like you're not vegan, I'm not vegan. Like that is not the conversation. The conversation is about how vegans should proceed in terms of their consumer decisions.
We should proceed by not, as a general heuristic, we should proceed by not buying organic.
Yeah, and I think that's where you're experiencing the most contention. I've been following this issue for quite some time, and that's what I think you're experiencing the most contention.
Okay, so where's the contention? Where's the disagreement? What is wrong with my conclusion? What's wrong with my inferences? I just want to hear where I'm going wrong.
I would say that the statement, without qualifying, the statement organic is Carnist.
Oh God, dude, stop! We're doing it. Come on,
you can't hear
man.
it. Why can't you hear that?
I can't hear it because I'm not making that claim. That's not what I'm saying.
That's what you said. That's what the fucking titles of the videos are. What are you kidding? Are you kidding?
So many as a heuristic, organic is Carnist. There's so many times where I said not all organic is. Why?
Then title the videos as a general heuristic.
God. Okay, fine. We could change the title. Oh, dude, fine. As a general heuristic. Put it out everywhere. As a general heuristic. I'll change my name in Discord to as a general heuristic right now.
Sure. Sounds good to me.
Okay, great. So just so we don't go back to this again and again. Come on. I'm changing my name as a general heuristic.
Sure, sounds good to me. Like that's where you're experiencing the most contention, because I don't think this is an issue about just talking about the stuff within veganism, but to try to suggest that someone is not vegan because they bought an organic tomato, I think that's where you're experiencing the most contention.
Oh God, dude, my dude. As a general heuristic, organic is Carnist. I don't know what else to say. Like I've clarified this so many times.
Can you hear me right now? Am I coming through? I have to say,
yes, you are.
What it is that he's saying about the video titles. Like, I'm looking at the videos here, and they just say Avi versus Telly on organic, Avi versus Michelle Lowe on organic, Avi versus Bryn on organic. No, there's probably more down here, but I don't see even where that categorical claim is getting made. And that claim, obviously, it's unreasonable to assume it's categorical. But I don't even know what you're talking about with the video titles. What video are you talking about?
I mean, I'd have to search, but I found organic is Carnist a number of times.
There's not any problem with that phrasing. Like, I mean, obviously.
Wait. Just wait. Hold on, Isaac. Those titles are coming from people who are making videos again. I know that there are titles out there about there are people strawmanning me. Like, I don't know specifically who, but I remember seeing titles like "Organic is Carnist" from. I mean, I know there's one of those titles in Logan Blake, Logie Bear. He's strawmanning my. That may be a. I don't. Let's see what title. Yeah, in Conscientious Omnivore, he made a. It wasn't the title, but it was the thumbnail that said this is Organic is Carnist. That's not as strong. So all these videos that have that are people who are strawmanning me. They're not. I never made a video with that title. Isaac didn't make a video with that title. The people who are making videos strawmanning me are making videos or thumbnails.
I may have. I just don't think I have. And even if someone did, why would you assume it refers to a categorical claim? Like, why are you being so insistent about that? It's just silly. Food's good. Someone's like, are you hungry? Do you like food? Food's good. Do you take that to refer to every single fucking item of food on the planet?
Yeah, I was also going to say
it's just a ridiculous way to attack.
Well, I also wanted to add something. Like, do you think killing people is like bad as a general heuristic versus like do you see the distinction between a heuristic and like categorically? Like, killing people is bad versus killing people as a general heuristic?
Well, and I think we would interpret a statement like killing people is bad as some kind of general statement. I don't think we like always do this weird like robotic like assume it's categorical for no apparent reason thing. If someone says killing is bad, I'm not assuming.
Wait, but what about killing in self-defense? I mean,
yeah,
shit. I mean,
right.
I guess you conceded. I got you to concede, dude.
Yeah, wrecked, right? That's just so Telly. Like, look, do you actually disagree with Avi on a claim? Because that's what you want to debate about, right? Like, if you're just going to sit here and keep doing this stupid move where you argue about like, well, this claim that Avi's not making is stupid. It's like what is the point of that? What do you disagree with him about?
Okay, well, if that's what you guys are saying, if that's what you understand from what I've said, then I think we're on the same page. I just have an issue with the general way that I've seen this broadcasted, this idea. And I don't think that it's actually...
Why don't you just state, is there a proposition that Avi thinks is true or false or doesn't have a view about that you think is true or false or you do have a view about and it's different, right? Is there something like that? What proposition do you disagree with him about?
I think there's 2 points, but the primary point is that I don't think that animal litter, so to speak, feces, is being used for agriculture is necessarily non-vegan.
Okay, and what's the other point?
The other point is at what...
Wait, no, you just did it again. That's necessarily
non-vegan. He did it again. That's not a proposition I disagree with.
Do you think Avi holds the position that it's necessarily non-vegan? Why, like, Telly, why do you keep doing that? Okay, it's been pointed out over and over again. He's not making a categorical claim. Okay, so that's not a point of disagreement.
If we're talking about generally speaking, could it be possible that you could have animal feces?
No, just give me the proposition. Okay, what you said, there's 2 points of disagreement. The first is not a point Avi holds, so it can't be a point of disagreement. Okay,
sure.
So
sure.
Do you want to try to fix that one and make it something you disagree about, or do you want to just drop it and point out the other one?
I don't want to act like I don't want to misrepresent him.
Look, how many points of disagreement are there? that you're aware of? Propositions that you
it
disagree
seems
with
that there's 2 points of
Okay,
disagreement.
what are they?
So generally speaking, and I could be wrong. I want to be shown that I'm wrong. So generally speaking, I think that just by using animal-based fertilizer, and I'm not speaking about blood, I'm not speaking about the killing of animals, but animal feces being used as fertilizer, I wouldn't say that is, generally speaking, I'm not talking about some fringe case. Generally speaking, I don't think that that's vegan. I mean, I don't think that's non-vegan.
Okay, so there's a point of disagreement, I assume. So the first point is you disagree that using animal fertilizer, just say it specifically. What exactly is it that you disagree about?
Okay. Animals shitting, whatever they're being kept for and what's going to be done to them is a different aspect to whether they're shitting in a place and their shit is being used for fertilizer, because that could technically be done on
Okay. I think I might understand. Let me try to understand. So are you saying that you disagree that whether feces is bought actually factors into whether something is vegan or not at all?
Right. Yeah, that's
okay.
that's
Now I
basically
know
it.
he disagrees with you about that.
Bought
I
or
definitely
not.
disagree. Yeah,
I don't even have to
that's
ask
that's
you.
yeah.
Right.
That is the ridiculous.
Okay,
Yeah, that's a horrendous.
Okay, so we have one. Now what's the other one?
The other one is at what level this applies in terms of, can we affect this change from the consumer end, or is this more something that if you're talking with a farmer that you would want to affect that change?
No, Telly, try to be clear. I'm asking you what the proposition is you disagree about, and you're asking a question, right?
The proposition that I would disagree with is that the consumer has an effect on the manufacturer or grower end of the spectrum.
Okay, let's just be clear about that. Are you saying that when the consumer buys organic or not, that has no impact on animal production?
No, I'm not saying no impact, but from the general vegan heuristic, what that I don't think it has a substantial effect.
Are you saying that substantial is very vague, right?
Sure it is.
What are you disagreeing about? You have to be really clear, because I'm still not understanding right here. Like the first time you were clear, right?
I'm not even sure if we disagree on this point.
One second. With the first proposition, you were perfectly clear, right? You said that there's with what was it? Let me remember it. With feces. Oh yeah, you don't think that the purchase of feces actually factors into whether something is vegan or not at all, right? That's clear. We know what you're saying. What do you think the proposition is that you're disagreeing about here? Just say it like that, just nice and clearly.
Holy shit, I'm sorry, I cut out. Can you repeat that last question?
I just said you were really clear about the first disagreement. So just what is the second one? Just don't go on a big thing. Just say what the proposition is you disagree about.
Whether or not the consumer can truly affect the manufacturer or grower end of the supply chain.
I don't understand what that means. Are you saying, are you doubting supply and demand? Is that what you're saying? You're not sure if supply affects, or sorry, if demand affects supply?
No, that I think that because you got the consumer, you got the reseller, you got the distributor, and you got the manufacturer or grower. I'm suggesting that I don't think that the consumer has a substantial, or should I say,
I don't know what that means.
I think the consumer has a negligible effect on.
What would it mean to have an effect? Or does an effect mean makes less animals get bred into existence? Is that what an effect is? What's an effect mean?
Essentially, yes.
Right. So we're talking about how much of the animal holocaust is being caused by something. The effect we're talking about is how much animal holocaust something yields. Right.
Sure.
That's the effect.
Yes.
Okay. So the claim is, now I don't want to straw man you. Are you saying that the difference between buying conventional and organic actually there's no difference in effect between those. Is that the claim?
Well, close. Basically, I have not seen the evidence that shows me that the consumer can affect in anything but a negligible sense the decisions of the manufacturer or grower in terms of what
Well,
they're going to use.
wait a second. But a negligible. This doesn't make sense. When we're talking about veganism, do you think that vegans versus carnists, that there is some kind of effect that's not negligible in like how effect, meaning how much of the Holocaust they're causing? Don't you think there's a non-negligible difference there in how much effect a vegan and a carnist get?
Perhaps. Can I try to elucidate that?
Well, once I'm trying to understand your claim. Okay, so just
Right.
one. So, because what I'm trying to understand is, if you're saying that that being or anti-organic vegan doesn't have an effect, right? Then it has to be the case that you don't think vegan has an effect. I think is this A for Tory or whatever. It's just the organic vegan. You're contributing less demand for all of this, right? So it's like unless you think vegan doesn't have an effect, you can't be saying that. Do you think vegan has an effect versus carnist?
Yes. From the resell to the reseller.
So the claim. Okay, so maybe we can figure out what you're saying here. So obviously, if you think vegan has an effect, surely you think anti-organic vegan has an effect. So is the doubt just about if there's a difference in effect between vegan and anti-organic vegan?
Not quite.
Well,
it's a tough question. I'm sorry.
Okay, so do you actually know that there even is a point of disagreement here? Because I just feel like I'm fishing and you don't really know even what you're trying to disagree about.
No, I know what I'm trying to disagree
about. You're saying something about effect, okay? We have organic and we have, we have vegan and we have anti-organic vegan, right? So those are both a vegan diet. Surely if the vegan diet has an effect, then you're going to have to say the anti-organic vegan diet has an effect, right? So I'm assuming it can't be about whether it has an effect at all. I'm assuming it's something about the difference in effect between anti-organic vegan and vegan.
I think both have an effect on the reseller. The point is, I haven't been shown that it has much of an effect on the distributor or manufacturer grower end.
No. We've specified that by effect, what we mean is how much animal holocaust it generates. That's what it means to have an effect. Unless you're redefining that.
No, that's not what I'm speaking to. Because that's a different case. That's not what I'm speaking.
Okay, well, look, Telly, what are you saying the difference is? Like, are you saying there's the claim is that there's some kind of difference in effect between vegan and organic vegan. Okay, so there's some difference in effect, and it's not an important one. Is that the idea?
It's I mean basically that I don't think it's a very important one, but can I try to elucidate that?
Okay, wait, no, because now we're actually getting close to understanding what the because I don't want to argue it with you. I'm just trying to get the fucking proposition so Avi actually has something he can debate you on, because you're being insanely unclear.
And I want the facts. I'm willing to change my mind.
Okay. But so it sounds like what you're saying is that both vegan and anti-organic vegan have a positive effect, right? They cause there to be less Holocaust happening, but you don't think that the difference in effect, you grant that there's a difference in effect, but you don't think that it's large enough that we should be concerned about it, right? That's the claim?
Basically, yes.
Okay. All right. So now we have two clear propositions. So the first one is that just 1 second. The first one is that feces purchasing just doesn't factor into whether something is a vegan or non-vegan. And the next one is that we shouldn't be morally concerned about the difference in effect between being vegan and anti-organic vegan. So now I'll give it to Avi now that we have some propositions.
Can I try to just explain a bit more my point? Not trying to take the stage, I just want to be able to talk about what I'm actually trying to get. Okay. Well, then I'll go with it since there's silence.
Yeah. Why don't we just go through the proposition? Okay. So proposition one. Proposition one is that feces doesn't play a role in the calculus of whether something is vegan or not vegan. Feces purchasing.
Sure, but can
so
we
that's
just
completely ridiculous. So that's no. This is the proposition. So that's incredibly ridiculous because
says
look,
you.
I don't. Yeah, it says me. I say it's incredibly ridiculous, and the reason I say that is because what's the difference?
Elucidate me on that.
Yeah, yeah, because if it's purchased and economic demand is given to that process, like if process X, even if contingently, if process X produces products A, B, C, D, and E, if you purchase any of those products from process X, you're creating contingent demand for process X. Even if it's not an entailment, even if it's just a contingency, you're creating demand for the process.
But contingent to what significant effect? That's really
okay.
That's
No,
really...
now two. Now you're just okay. Now you're jumping between two different propositions.
This is why I want to talk in plain English because I don't care to go with your proposition. No. Let's try to talk in plain English. Let's try to talk in plain English. Let me try.
Here's the problem: when we talk in plain,
I've been waiting for 15 minutes. So just say this.
Dude. When we've gotten two propositions on the table, you've gotten two propositions on the table. You clearly we were attacking one, and you jumped to two.
Apparently, the proposition's incorrect. If you're saying I'm changing it, I'm trying to say the same point. So
you disagree. So just to be clear, you disagree. You disagree with proposition one. Then that feces production.
Write it down. I'll tell you if I disagree with it. Let's talk about what I'm trying to get at.
I think we need Isaac to clarify the proposition again.
No, I think you guys are trying to be sophists here.
I think you're trying to control the discussion. I think you're being evasive. To be honest,
no, I'm not being evasive. I'm being as unevasive as I possibly can.
Look, do you disagree with the following? Do you disagree with or agree with the proposition that the purchase of animal feces, does not factor in any way into the calculus of whether something is vegan or non-vegan? Do you agree or disagree with that?
I don't know. Write it down, dude. Can I explain?
Why can't we get a proposition that we actually...
Can I explain my position?
Okay, go ahead, explain your position.
Okay, so if indeed we lived in a fully vegan world where you had only vegan sanctuaries keeping non-human animals such as cows, let's say, and those cows shit in the middle of the forest, whatever, they feed on grass, they're being protected, and they shit in the middle of the forest, and somebody goes and scoops that up and sells it to farms to fertilize their crops. Would you say that is non-vegan?
No, I would not say that is non-vegan. I don't think there's something intrinsically... Okay,
that's my point. That's what I'm driving.
However, I don't know. I'm not saying there's something intrinsically wrong with the purchase of feces. I'm saying that purchase of feces can contingently, in certain contexts, like the organic context, create demand for the slaughter of cows. Create demand for the breeding and slaughter of cows.
I just want to say I put the propositions both into general. I'll do it again now, so they're both there. And I'll also say one thing for Telly, look, the reason that that we want to get a clear proposition is just so we understand what the disagreement is. Okay, if you start thinking, okay, actually, I don't disagree with that proposition, then just say, never mind, okay, I grant that, and then reformulate it. But what he doesn't want you to do is just have this vague conversation where we don't know what's being talked about. That's why he's trying to keep you on the proposition. So
I'm with you. I've downed about an eighth of vodka as I've been talking here because this is quite frustrating, and I've just been trying to get to one point, and I don't quite have the patience to nail down.
Let me do it like this. I think we can get to it. I think we get to it. Look, let's say there's a discarded egg on a sanctuary. Let's say there's an egg that's discarded on a sanctuary. The chicken is not going to use it for its nutrients or whatever. It's an egg that's discarded. And it's not going to cause the chicken, it's not going to create demand for breeding more chickens. It's not going to create demand for slaughtering other chickens. Is it vegan to consume? Is it ethically vegan to consume the egg?
Can you repeat that? I'm
Okay, sure. Let's say there's a discarded egg, right? So there's an egg discarded by a chicken. It's just going to sit there and rot away or whatever.
Sure.
It's not going to if you consume that egg, it's not going to create any demand for increased chicken production or increased egg production or anything. It's not going to change any of that stuff.
Right.
Is it ethically vegan to consume the egg or not?
It's ethically vegan to consume.
I agree. Right. Yeah. So that doesn't mean though. It doesn't mean that just because that context buying eggs is ethically vegan, it doesn't follow that buying eggs in the context that we currently are in is ethically vegan. Because in the context that we're currently in, when you buy eggs, you actually do create demand for treating animals horribly. The same thing is true for the current situation we're in for feces purchasing. In the current situation for manure purchasing, you actually are in a situation, just like with the eggs, that in this context, you're creating contingent demand for the process of breeding them, forcing them into existence, forcing them in, and the process of slaughtering them. This whole process is something you're creating demand to, just like buying eggs creates demand for that whole process for chickens. Even though there's nothing intrinsically non-vegan about buying an egg, because you can buy a discarded egg. I mean, even though there's nothing intrinsically wrong with buying a discarded egg, we can realize that in the current situation, when you buy eggs, you're creating contingent demand. Right. Same thing for manure. Same thing for manure. There's no difference. In the case of manure, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with buying manure if you were in a context on a sanctuary farm. However, in the context where we're buying manure in the real world context, where we're actually doing it, right now, that is not vegan because you actually are creating demand for this process.
I would say that's the point of contention. We've
okay. So what's the difference? So give me the breaker. Give me the symmetry breaker between buying eggs and buying the manure.
Because one is actually, I mean, in an industry standard, one is actually relying on the outcome. In other words, the egg production. And the other is just a byproduct of keeping cows.
Okay, so is it your position that it doesn't factor into the calculus at all because it's just a byproduct and it's not the reliant? When you say it's reliant, what do you mean by reliant?
Well, I didn't use the word, but just to go with what you're saying.
Well, you did use the word reliant.
Did I? Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I guess the recording will show. So the idea is that one produces, like, okay, so on one end you kill cows and you maybe derive their milk, and that's unethical. I disagree with that. But meanwhile, those cows are going to
yeah, but but meanwhile the cows. Okay, wait. Look. What is okay? So you have a bunch of let's define process X as the process of whatever they're doing to the cows. Everything that a farmer is doing to the cow is defined as process X, right? The breeding, the treatment, everything through that up to the slaughter let's call that process X.
Well, can I suggest something? I'm not ignorant to this topic. So chickens are actually the more relevant factor.
Let's talk about chicken manure then. That's fine.
So
great.
Chicken
so process.
shit.
Okay.
Great.
Yep. So if you buy chicken manure, or if you buy the egg, or if you buy any of those, or the chicken meat, you are contributing demand to the process X, where process X is the entire process of breeding the chickens, feeding them, keeping them in cages, and their slaughter. You are creating contingent demand for that. Do you agree or disagree?
You spoke a little bit fast. The deriving their shit is not the same as
purchasing. I didn't say no. I didn't say it was the same. I didn't say it was the same. I said all of those things are creating economic demand for process X. The purchase of all of those things. Yeah. Oh, really? It's not?
Correct.
So if I were to purchase the manure, that's not creating demand for the overall process.
No, it's not.
That's Very interesting. So if I were to,
can I put a question to you?
Why do you think it's not creating demand for the overall process?
Do you think that if that chicken farm, so to speak, went vegan, in other words, they just let the chickens roam free, they were not going to kill them, and then they sold their shit, do you think that that would be non-vegan? That's
No,
what
I
it comes
wouldn't.
down
I
to
just
for me.
said I don't. No, it's not what it comes down to at all. I think it's a tangential, irrelevant question because it's just as tangential and irrelevant as saying that if they were just discarded eggs, would it be non-vegan? Yeah, that's of course it wouldn't be. They would be vegan. It wouldn't be ethically non-vegan, but it's just an irrelevant question because that's not the contingent demand that we're creating. It's a completely different demand. So how do we not create demand when we purchase a product, whether it's a byproduct or a product for their purposes? How do we not create demand when we purchase the manure? What's magical about manure that when we purchase it, it's something that magically doesn't create demand all the other products?
What you just said, I'm face palming here at what is actually the contention at this point because you disagreed with me on my.
What are we disagreeing? No. Look, here's the proposition. The proposition is okay. Look, the proposition is the purchase of feces doesn't factor into whether something is vegan or carnist. I'm saying in the contingent case where the purchase of feces is creating demand for the process X, it does factor into whether it's vegan or carnist. Do you disagree with?
I do. So here's the thing. I can
okay. So just to be clear. So even if I purchased it for let's say they were selling it for a ton of money. Let's say they were selling it for almost as much as the main product.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Yeah. Let's say they were selling it for like. Would still say that it doesn't factor in if I were to buy it for like 100 for almost as much as the main product.
Yeah, it's.
You would say it doesn't
for its weight in gold.
So you can sell. So if they were selling the manure for its weight in gold, it wouldn't create there. Not a single extra chicken would be bred into existence on that chicken farm, and not a single extra chicken would die if they were able to sell the manure for its weight in gold. It wouldn't create demand for the process. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
What do we mean when we say create demand for the process? Do you understand what I mean?
So
it means we're incentivizing the process to upscale or continue.
Yeah. So
okay, great. So what magically separates manure from any other product? Like let's say they were selling feathers that were let's say this chicken farm, some of the feathers dropped off the chicken. And they decided that, you know what, hey, instead of just selling the eggs and the meat from the chicken, we can make even more money from this process by selling some of the feathers that fell off the chicken. Would it be vegan to buy those feathers?
I'm sorry. Somewhere I lost you in the middle of the question. You speak.
Okay, look. Let's say that there was a chicken farm. Okay, this chicken farm's doing everything the chicken farm normally does. They're torturing their chickens. They're slaughtering them. And let's say they have this idea. They say, hey, I have an idea. I'm going to sell the feathers that fall off of these chickens.
Yeah, they sell them to Just Meat so they can create their meat products or something.
All right,
whatever it is.
Let's just say they went from a state of not selling the feathers to saying, hey, I have an idea. I'm going to sell the feathers. So now the question on the table for you is it ethically vegan to buy the feathers from those people?
Yeah.
It is ethically vegan.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess we have a very different conception of what vegan is. Even if it was
what's the difference? What's the difference?
Wait, just to get clarity. Even if they were selling it for substantial amounts of money, you would say it's ethically vegan to buy those feathers.
Yeah, the amount of money is irrelevant. So
okay. So even if it was millions of dollars to that chicken farm,
sure,
Even you would say it's ethically vegan to buy those feathers.
Sure.
Okay. So I would say that I have you exactly in the reductio I want you. You've come to an insane position is because it seems obvious that if you were to buy those feathers for millions of dollars, no, it's calling something for what it is.
Yes, it is.
So if you were to,
poisoning.
It is completely insane. So the reason it's insane, the reason you have an insane view is because it's completely obvious that if you were to buy those feathers for their weight in gold, that it would be clear that it would upscale. You're creating demand for that farm to just continue doing what they're doing and doing it to a greater degree.
Okay, so can I spin this back on you?
So what's the difference? What's the difference? So what's the difference between that and any other product that you're?
By the way, that's bullshit. That's straight bullshit. You're just straw manning. But anyway, can I spin this back on you?
How do you want to spin back on me?
So you agreed with me that the consumer would be there would be a problem if they consumed from a vegan reseller if they bought from a non-vegan distributor under
certain conditions.
Okay, so under those same certain conditions, would you say that vegans should not consume from vegan resellers?
Under certain conditions. If there were certain conditions in place such that, and they knew all those conditions were there, such that it was somehow creating economic demand, more economic demand for the animal agriculture industry, then an easy alternative, then I would say, yeah, it would be a non-vegan thing to do also.
Okay, so in other words, if I buy from a grocery store that sells meat, so it has a butcher area, and somehow I was able to deduce that they made more money from there's some percentage. That's the funny thing with you. So you think there's some percentage that this non-vegan reseller, I go buy from Walmart and I find out that somehow, I guess over 50% or whatever the percentage is, that at some percentage, that if they're making money from the non-vegan commodities, that for me to buy strictly vegan products from them is actually, it makes me not a vegan. Am I getting that correct?
If you were, well, no, not exactly. If you were to know, if you were to know that there is a percentage that's equivalent to if they're making a certain amount of money, I don't need to know the exact percentage. I don't need to give you the exact percentage, but I'm saying there is a certain percentage there. And the case I'm getting is just, I gave you the case of milk, because that's what I can say is at least the case for. And I'm just saying, let's say you went to a supermarket and realized that if you were to buy vegan products from the supermarket, that supermarket is getting it from a retailer that's acting irrationally. And the amount
acting
of demand
irrationally is subjective.
Yeah. No. It's no. By acting irrationally, I just mean that they are not following what any actor following supply and demand would do. So, for example,
purchasing meat.
Yeah, purchasing meat when responding to an increase in purchase of water bottles by increasing meat purchase instead of re-upping the water bottles. Yes, everyone would agree that that's irrational. You don't have to go try
You're
to take me
setting
down
up
a rabbit hole.
Very intricate.
No.
You call my position insane, but you're suggesting that me buying oatmeal at Walmart is non-vegan. That's fucking insane.
No,
Sorry,
I'm not.
buddy.
Nope. That's a straw man in my position. If you buy oatmeal at Walmart,
it's not at all.
Nope. If you buy, let's try it again. If you buy oatmeal at Walmart, I specified that if you knew that the degree of demand was equivalent to drinking a cup of milk a day, if you were to have like a oatmeal at Walmart diet, and you knew that something was going on.
Buddy. It's not.
Excuse me. If there was a clear amount of demand that was at that same level, then, and you were to know that all those factors were in place, you were to have that knowledge, and an easy alternative oatmeal was available that was right next to it, You could just move your arm and get the other oatmeal, and you were to know that, yes, it would be a non-vegan act to buy that oatmeal.
That's not what I was asking. It's funny how you want to pigeonhole the discussion when it's convenient for you, but not when it's convenient for me.
Buddy, my dude, what are you asking?
What are you asking? Because
you're the one who wants to ask me a question.
You're suggesting that purchasing oatmeal from Walmart is somehow non-vegan if Walmart consumes more meat in the process. Am I wrong?
If certain conditions are in place, of course it's not vegan, and it would be insane to suggest
those conditions in such a subjective manner.
I just set those conditions in a consistent manner. I set those conditions in
it's not consistent.
And the reason it's consistent is because it's just the differential between an organic diet and minimum differential between an organic diet and a conventional diet. That's how I based it off.
No. See, your differentiation between organic and non-organic is irrelevant here. You're not even getting to the point.
I'm just giving you a clear example. There may be some area by which no, not at all. It's actually composite herring. It's completely on topic because it's giving you this Steelman between organic and conventional and giving you the same consistent differential. I'm doing the opposite of a red herring. So again, yes, I am. Okay, again, so look, when you say, is it your position that buying oatmeal from Walmart is not vegan, I'm saying it could be under certain stipulations. Now, I don't think those stipulations are actually there in reality. In reality, I think that's a fantasy world where that doesn't occur. But
okay, then I think what you're suggesting is in a fantasy world that doesn't occur. You haven't shared the data. Are you suggesting that
I see no reason
buying oatmeal?
No, I'm saying if certain conditions, which I don't think we have reason to believe are in effect, then buying oatmeal could be non-vegan under certain circumstances. Sure.
Okay. Well, then thank you. You've certified that your position is without basis. So that's all I need.
It's an implication. Do you understand what an implication is?
I do.
What is an implication?
Why do you have to spin it like that? Do you think I don't understand the word implication?
Go ahead. I just want you to know you said you understood it, so I'd like to just confirm that you understand what you're saying. You understand.
How about not grandstanding? How about you just explain it? I can explain it, but it's ridiculous what you do.
Wait.
You play this tactic.
If you want to talk about grandstanding, just explain it then, dude. If you want to talk about grandstanding, you're the one who's saying you understood it and can't explain it. Go ahead, do it. What did I mean? What do we mean when we talk about implications in philosophy?
To suggest that something is true under certain conditions.
What do we suggest when we talk? What does an implication mean when we're talking about proposition? I said if. I'll help you. If P, then Q. It's not a position that there is P. It's not a position that there is.
It's a conditional affirmative.
It's an implication. It's like the material implication.
Conditional affirmative. Correct.
Okay, so it doesn't. I'm not actually giving you my position when I say that. I'm just saying if these things were in place, then these things are in place. I'm not giving you a position here. So for you to say, "Oh, you've shown your position is not without saying," like, I wasn't even giving you a position. I was just answering your question by saying if these things are in place, then those things.
Generally speaking, is oatmeal vegan?
I think it is.
Okay, generally speaking, is buying a tomato vegan?
I think it. Yeah, I think it is.
Okay, then there's no debate.
But I do think generally buying organic oatmeal is not vegan, and generally speaking, buying organic tomatoes are not vegan.
You can speak to the relative implications to harm, but do you think that vegan exists in on a spectrum, or is it a on-off switch? Is it a polarity?
I think there's going to be a gray area, and I think there are clear areas at both ends of the spectrum, and I think organic is on a clear end.
So in your position, I can buy a glass of milk and I can be more vegan than someone who buys a certain kind of oatmeal in a certain store.
No. Again, that's mischaracterizing my position. I said whether something is vegan or not is, in my view, an on-off switch. However, like there are certain and so this is one of the things that I regret saying in the Michelle Lowe debate. Like, could something be more vegan? Like, yeah, I should have just said more. I should have just started with more ethical. Like, but
no, more
whether
harm.
it is vegan or
not,
said.
More harm.
No, because more harm doesn't necessarily mean more ethical or non-ethical. More harm is actually
been a tautological question.
No, it wouldn't have. So what I should have started. No, okay, no. So there are gradations. There's perfectly coherent gradations of wrongness on many ethical views. So that's just nonsense. So I should have actually started with what the second thing I mentioned was, is it more wrong? Because I understand that it could be confusing if I just say, is it more vegan or not? Like, I get that. Regardless,
is murdering someone wrong?
Yes, of course, but is it murdering two people more wrong than murdering one person? That's a completely coherent question.
No, it's not.
Really? Okay, so let me ask you this. Is it an incoherent question to say, is it more wrong? Is it more wrong to murder 1 million people or one person?
It's equally wrong to kill every individual involved.
It's equally okay. So let me ask you this: there are two. Okay, just to be clear, there's 1 billion people that are going to be killed in one case, and there's one person that's going to be killed in another place. Are they equally wrong?
Yes, it's equally wrong to kill every individual involved.
So it's equally wrong, even though the amount of harm doesn't translate. The differential in harm doesn't translate to a differential in degree of wrongness.
Correct. Tautologically, there is more harm when you kill more people.
But that doesn't translate into a differential in degree of wrongness.
Correct.
Okay. Now let me ask you this: if there's two worlds, one world where 1 million people are tortured to death, and one world where one person is tortured to death, which world would you prefer?
Say again?
If there are two worlds, one world, 1 million people are tortured to death, and in another world, only one person is tortured to death. Which world would you prefer?
Obviously, if you're suggesting that it's just a matter of binary here, I would suggest that less people should be tortured. Yeah.
Would you say that is less wrong?
Less wrong. There's less harm. It's still equally wrong for each individual involved. Morality applies individually.
Would it be? Is there? Let me ask you this: is there a right or wrong decision to make? You can decide.
Yes.
You can decide between a world where one person gets killed or tortured to death, and the world where 1 million people get tortured to death. Is there a right?
Let's meet minds on this.
Is there
more wrong? It would be more wrong to suggest that more people, more wrong in the sense that it would be wrong versus right to suggest that more people should be tortured. Yeah.
Okay, so it does. There is a gradation of right. I mean,
no. It's still a binary, but it's just that binary applies to more individuals. And if you're deciding between less or more individuals, it'd be wrong to choose more.
Okay, look. If it would be more wrong to choose more individuals, then why can't it be more wrong to choose organic over conventional? If it's more wrong, if there would be more cows that would die, why can't that be more wrong?
I just said wrong. I didn't say more wrong.
Okay,
I think that's
okay. So there's no more wrong. So it just so there's no. Okay, look.
Morality applies to individuals.
That doesn't even make sense if he's an anti-realist, though, because he's just said he has a preference for one over the other. And if preference and wrongness are just going to be the same thing, then it's going to be a contradiction if he says that there's not a difference in wrongness. So you can actually, look, what do you think wrong even means?
I'm a moral realist. I don't know where you brought up anti-realist.
No, because if you're an anti-realist, you would have contradicted yourself right there. Well, I guess I won't take it way down this road, but unless he can defend moral realism, that'll actually be a contradiction right there, because he said he's got a preference for one over the other. but he.
I can, but you want to get into deontology. You want to get into
no, that's normative
That's
ethics.
irrelevant.
That's not even. That's completely
That's
irrelevant.
normative theory. Deontology is just a category
Avi,
error
do
there.
you understand what I said?
Yeah, I understand what you said.
Yeah, because he said that one world is preferable over the other, but one is not more wrong than the other. But if preferable and wrong are just the same thing, then you'll get a contradiction. So he has to be able to defend realism for that not to be a contradiction right there.
Okay, what do you mean when you say something is wrong then? I don't understand.
Causes harm.
Okay, wrong means okay. So wrong is
harm. Initiate
okay, and okay, great. If something is wrong, if it causes harm, is causing more harm more wrong?
No.
Okay. Okay, so if something causes harm, we just say it's wrong, and then and regardless of the degree of harm it causes, it's just the same amount of wrong.
Correct.
So which decision would be wrong if we have one case where 1 million people are being tortured to death and another world where one person's being tortured to death and you had to pick between instantiating one world over the other? Would there be one that is
between two?
Would there wait no no. If you had, I didn't say if you had to pick between two. Is there an answer to which world is more wrong? To which is there a more wrong choice for you in picking one world over the other?
No, because morality applies individually.
Okay, so just to be clear, there's one world in which millions of people are being tortured. There's another world in which one person is being tortured, and you have to pick between which world to instantiate there, and you want to say there is no more wrong option. There is no option that is worse or more wrong or less ethical.
I think you're asking really an inconsequential question. If you're what you're trying to get at, what you're trying to get at is harm.
No,
there's more harm.
Again,
For sure, there's more harm. Logically, there's more harm.
Nope. I'm not trying to get nope. Let's try it again. So the question on the table is, if you have to choose between two worlds, one where
I would
there
choose
is
one where less people are being tortured.
Nope. That's not the question. So let's try it again. If you had to choose between two worlds, would you say that there is a more wrong option for you to choose or not?
No, because morality applies individually.
Okay, so you would say there's not a more wrong option for you to choose between a world where tons of people are getting tortured and only one person is getting tortured.
Yeah, would you say that someone who a newborn baby versus a fleet of elderly people about to die, would you say there's a difference between that?
Telly, would you prefer one of those worlds over the other?
Sure.
What's it mean for something to be wrong?
It means that there is a net initiation of force being reduced.
Wrong means that there's a net initiation of force being produced.
No. I'm sorry. I misspoke. Right would mean that there's a net
I asked what wrong
initiation of force being reduced, and what wrong is would be there would be a net initiation of force being increased.
Okay, so there aren't degrees of wrongness. Wrongness is just if there's force, it is wrong, and there's no degree.
It would be equally wrong to increase the initiation of force if you were just choosing one, or if you're just choosing a million.
Right, but if wrong just means if wrong just means increasing the initiation of force, you're just saying there would be more increase in the initiation of force if there was more increase in the initiation of force.
Yeah, so if you're
well, what's the point of saying that?
Well, you asked, but it seems that you don't care about the answer. You just want to laugh at the answer instead of understand what I'm.
But when you're talking about wrong, like it's not even clear you're talking about what anyone else is talking about when they're talking about morality. All you're saying when
that's true.
Okay, so when you're saying that something is wrong, all you're saying is there's an initiation of force here.
Sure. Yes. Someone's attacking someone else, and that would be wrong. And if someone is attacking a million people, that is also wrong.
Yeah, all you're saying is that there's an initiation of force if someone attacks people, and there's an initiation of force if someone attacks one person.
Yeah, so two separate universes where there's a net initiation of force increase would be wrong.
Doesn't contest either of those claims.
Right. I wouldn't think so.
Right. Okay. So wrong, when he uses the word wrong, he's not actually talking about some kind of like moral property, or he's not talking about a preference. He's literally, all he's saying is there's an initiation of force here and there's an initiation of force here.
Right.
Yeah, so we're not talking about the same thing when we say wrong. Like this is
That's fine. But the point is, that's why I bring it to the tautological point that there's more harm being caused in the second example, and so obviously I'd choose the lesser harm.
Does more harm impact something being vegan or not vegan? These decisions?
No, because vegan is an on-off switch. It's a polarity.
Okay, so just to be clear. Okay, so just to be clear, then, if you have a choice between two worlds, one world where millions of cows are getting tortured and killed, and the other world where one cow will get tortured and killed, and you have to choose between the two. Is one of those options? Would choosing either of those options change your status as a vegan? Let me ask you that.
No, we're talking about a polarity. So
if someone were to pick the world where the millions of cows would get tortured and killed, they would be equally as much of a vegan if someone were to just choose the world where one cow gets tortured and killed.
Yeah,
if they have to choose between those two options.
For sure.
Okay, so you would look at that person and be like, yeah, yep, he's just as vegan.
Yeah, I mean, if someone says, "Well, I'm gonna, hunt a cow in the middle of the forest," versus "I'm gonna farm a bunch of cows," like that would be equally non-vegan.
No. Again, so we're talking about a case where he has to pick one or the other. There's no option to not kill any cows. So
again, you're talking about the utility. Yeah, and in that sense, you're choosing the less would be the vegan option.
Okay, so it does make a difference. So that choice, the degree of harm does make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem dealing with hypotheticals.
Great. So then, can we reject proposition 1 that purchase of feces plays no role in the calculus of whether something is vegan or not?
I'm not convinced of that. I mean, I'm willing to be convinced, but I'm not convinced.
So if the purchase of feces if the purchase of manure creates more harm, then does that not factor into the calculation of whether it's vegan or not?
Just to throw it back at you, because I'm not sure I understand the question. If you're saying if it causes more harm, would I say that factors into whether it is vegan or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would.
Great. And would you say that if you purchase these things and the animal agriculture industry gets more money from the purchase of these things, that would create incentive to increase the process?
Perhaps. I mean, I'm willing to be convinced of that. I'm not.
Great. So why aren't you?
I haven't seen the data that necessitates that conclusion.
But this is just supply and demand. Like, why would you could have the same amount of data for buying eggs. Like, you could make the same case for buying a cup of milk to not increase the demand for processed eggs. or buying the chicken feathers, or any product that it's not intent, like any product that doesn't have the original intent.
There's also just one thing I want to be clear about with his position. Do you think that there's a choice that someone should make if they're given the choice to instantiate a world with, an infinite Holocaust or an individual being murdered? Do you think there's a choice someone should make there?
I could be misunderstanding your question. Are you saying that if there's more harm, should you choose again?
You're in a room and there's a button in front of you and there's another button in front of you. And if you push one, you instantiate a world where one guy's getting killed. And if you push the other, you instantiate a world with an infinite Holocaust. And you have to push one or the other. Do you think that there's a choice that you should make there?
Yeah, you should choose the less harm for sure.
Wait,
like I say, the net initiation of force
should means that it's the moral choice, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Wait, but if you're saying that there's a should there, and you're saying should means it's the moral choice, but they're morally equivalent because all that morality means to you is that there's some kind of use of force, that doesn't seem to make any sense, right?
They're both wrong, but the difference is the amount of harm that results.
Wait, but you're saying
they're
that
both
you
wrong.
Should. You're saying that you should pick one over the other, right? I take that to be a moral statement, right? There's a correct moral choice, right?
Correct.
Okay, so there is some component in your moral decision making beyond just whether the thing causes an imposition of will or whatever it is, right? There's something more than that, clearly. There's some concern for degree that factors into whether it's moral or not.
Sure, but
right, but
now what you're getting at.
Wait, 1 second. But now you can't cop out of him asking you if one is more ethical than the other. Now you actually have to.
No, I don't agree. I don't agree because morality applies individually.
Wait, but wait 1 second. How can it be that you should pick one over the other, but one isn't more ethical than the other? That sounds like a contradiction to me. It sounds like all should means is that one's more ethical than the other. How can it be that you should pick one over the other if there's no moral difference?
If you've already gotten past the point, like for instance, if there was a third option where you don't press any buttons, like I would say choose that.
You're just talking
but if you're saying you press one or the other,
I'm asking you. You're talking.
I'm not trying to.
Okay, so just answer clearly, right? How can it be the case that they're morally equivalent, but there's a morally correct decision to pick one over the other?
Because morality applies individually. So when you're talking about each individual involved, it is morally equivalent to cause that harm to each individual. But if the choice is between one individual and a million individuals, obviously you would choose the less harm.
Wait,
you're
no,
talking
I'm
past
asking
the point that I was making.
No. I'm asking not at all. I'm asking which is the morally correct choice. You've said that there is a morally correct choice there, right? How can it be that there's a morally correct choice between two morally equivalent things, right? Morally correct means that one is morally better than the other to choose, but you were saying they're morally equivalent. Saying they're equivalent and not equivalent is a contradiction.
Given the idea that you must choose one or the other, so that
wait, that's already in play. No, stop. You're talking around what I'm saying. Try to follow this, okay?
Not trying to.
Okay, well, just try to follow the reasoning, right? You're saying that there's a morally correct decision to make between those two worlds when you're forced to choose between them. That's the situation I gave you, right? You're saying there's a morally correct decision there, right? That means that choosing one is morally better than choosing the other. One pathway is morally better, right? But you're saying that the pathways are equivalently moral. It doesn't make sense to say that they are and aren't equivalently moral. That's a contradiction.
It's a contradiction if the qualification is given, but he didn't ask it with the qualification.
No, that was just a random sentence. What do you mean qualification?
The qualification that you must choose one or the other. That's the difference.
That's completely irrelevant. The point I'm making is that you're contradicting yourself.
No,
look, stop 1 second. You're not listening. Okay, just try to follow. You're saying that they're morally equivalent and they're not morally equivalent. That's a contradiction.
It's a
Right?
contradiction given the qualification. It's a contradiction. I agree with you given the qualification.
You have to either say there's not a morally correct choice here, or say, right, so yeah, you can say they're equivalent and there's not a morally correct choice, or they're not equivalent and there isn't a morally correct choice, right? It's either one or the other. It can't be that they're equivalent and not equivalent at the same time. That doesn't make any sense. Unless you're are you a dialetheist? Do you think there are true contradictions?
Say what?
Do you think there are true contradictions?
No, but I think there is a threshold.
One second. So there can't be right. So it's either then the case that they're morally equivalent and there isn't a morally correct choice for one over the other, or they're not morally equivalent and there is a morally correct choice for one over the other. You can't like have your cake and eat it too. You got to pick. Are they morally equivalent or not?
Given the qualification,
I'm asking. No, look, now you're annoying me. Okay, why are you saying that? It's like if I ask you, look, if you
can I explain?
No, I want you to listen, because what you're saying is completely irrelevant. Okay, you're saying with the qualification, it doesn't matter. I'm just pointing out, here's a situation where you contradict yourself, saying, well, there's some condition in play in that situation. Yeah, of course, there's the conditions that are set up for the situation. The point is that you're contradicting yourself, right?
Within the qualification, I agree with you.
We agree that there's a contradiction?
Within the qualification, correct.
Okay, now
that if I were to say that within the qualification,
stop. Within the qualification, all you mean is that in the hypothetical that I've given you, you contradicted yourself. That's what we're talking about.
No, because I was not.
When you say the qualification, all the qualification is the hypothetical. It's just a condition in the hypothetical, right?
But that wasn't what I was given,
and you contradict yourself about it.
No.
Okay, well then, are you saying it's not a contradiction to say that the worlds are and aren't equivalent morally?
What I said prior to the qualification would be a contradiction in the qualification.
Stop. Is that a contradiction?
I'm sorry, could you say again?
Yeah, the worlds are equivalent morally, and it's not the case that the worlds are equivalent morally. Is that a contradiction? This is not confusing, okay? It's P and not.
Could you repeat that? I'm
worlds
missing.
Are morally equivalent, and it's not the case that the worlds are morally equivalent. Do you understand that that's a contradiction?
Within the qualification, the worlds are not morally equivalent.
Listen, do you understand that this is a contradiction? The worlds are morally equivalent, and it's not the case that the worlds are morally equivalent. Yes or no?
Given what standard?
Okay, now if I hear you reply by saying given what standard, again, you're gone. Okay, I'm going to ban you if you try to dodge like that again. Answer the fucking question, Tell.
Then now, be more clear.
Be
more clear. I can't understand what you're saying.
Tell, listen, okay? Try to turn those little ears on, okay? Here are two propositions, okay? It's the same proposition. It's proposition and negation, okay? Right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to say the worlds are morally equivalent, and it's not the case that the worlds are morally equivalent. Is that a contradiction? Yes or no? Anything other than a yes or a no, and I'm going to ban you, okay? Is it a contradiction?
May I ask for clarification?
Can someone ban Tell?
That's ridiculous.
Let's give you one more try. We'll give you one more try.
Can you clarify what you're saying? If you're not going to allow for the qualification, it's ridiculous.
That's not
an argument.
You fucking moron.
That's not an argument.
Can someone mute this idiot, please? Listen, it's proposition and negation, okay? This is not confusing. A proposition and its negation together in a conjunction is a contradiction. If you don't understand that, you don't understand the first thing about logic. So let me put it this way, okay? Do you concede that that is a contradiction? If you don't, I'm going to ban you. And if you don't give a... Look, if you say anything other than yes, I'm going to ban you, okay? Is that a contradiction?
Yes, it would be.
Great.
Given,
Okay,
given
great. Now
the
stop,
qualifications
stop.
that you
Okay,
gave.
great, stop. Okay, so we understand that's a contradiction. Now, when you say that there's not a morally correct choice there, right? You're saying it's morally equivalent. The worlds are morally equivalent, right? If there's a morally correct choice, they're not morally equivalent, okay? It can't be that they're morally equivalent and they're not morally equivalent, all right? So are they
I agree.
or aren't they?
I agree.
Okay, so are they or aren't they?
They're not morally equivalent given the qualifications that you gave.
Great. They're not. Look, if I hear the words "given the qualification" again, I'm gonna ban you. Okay, because it's a stupid, irrelevant thing that you think somehow saves your position, and it doesn't. Okay. If someone asks Telly, shut up. Listen. If someone asks you, hey, let's say that hypothetically your mom offers to make you toast or cereal. Which would you choose? And you say toast. In the situation where she asks me if I want toast or cereal. It's like, why are you saying that? Why do you think that's a relevant thing to say?
But you didn't specify those
idiotic.
terms. No, you didn't specify those terms. That's the problem.
Now shut up as I walk you through this, okay? Now so you've picked they're not morally equivalent, or they're not.
You turn it into a power dynamic. That's the problem.
Stop. Listen, okay? You've picked that they're not morally equivalent, all right? So to be consistent, what you're going to have to say is that there is a morally correct choice between those two worlds, all right? So we've reconciled it. They're not morally equivalent. And so now morality, it can't just be that all it refers to is whether there's a violation of will or whatever, right? Because there's something more than that goes into whether a world is moral.
Right. There's a net increase of harm.
There's also some kind of concern for degree. So now I'm going to pass it back to Avi, but now there's a cop-out that's not open to you anymore, okay? We don't want to hear, oh, it's morally equivalent with those two worlds, right? It's not morally equivalent. There's one that is correct to pick over the other.
Given the qualifications, yes.
Ban Telly. He's gone.
You're ridiculous. You're ridiculous. Power struggle right here. He's so fucking egotistical. It's ridiculous.